That's 2 weeks ago. That's August 3rd. This was in my box, I believe. Maybe it was on my table. Why I have it.
I don't.
It might have been a left. Maybe that's where I got it. Maybe they left it over in here when they were having one of their meetings.
You're disgusting. Oh, I bet you did.
And I probably picked it up because it was hanging around.
I think you're right.
Jake, we got feedback from you.
Yeah. Probably traveling.
He had little ear things in, so he must have been getting ready to go on
the funeral. Yeah.
Trying to be hands-free on this car.
Whenever you're ready. Okay. All right, we have our speed limit hearing this afternoon for proposing changes on 3 different roads, segments of those roads. We also on the consent agenda, we have our contract and bond ready for signature to Interstate Concrete and Asphalt, and this is for the paving of Roosevelt Grade Road. Item number 7 is a settlement agreement. This is the last one between the county and the Bonhams at the end of Panakinik Road, and this will complete that and we can move forward. We also have a couple pay estimates. The first one is to Grade Works, and this is for Old Mountain Road in the amount of $171,332.50. We have a pay estimate number 4 for Lee Contractors for the courthouse steps and entrances for $74,871.11. And then we also have pay estimate number 16 to Kirby Nagelhout for $798,264.84. And there's also retainage in all of these. So anyway, and they're all listed on the agenda. On the construction side, our annual striping contract is completed. They finished phase 2 work. Old Mountain Road contractors now pulling ditches on his subgrade, trying to finish subgrade, building approaches and back slopes, and then they'll start placing crushed rock over the top of that. Nothing new on our 2 grant projects. Still, they keep saying we're going to get the material next Monday, but we'll see.
Yeah.
West Darlin Road paving. The contract and bond will be on your agenda next week. And then I already talked about what's going on with Roosevelt. We have the contract and bond for your signature today.
Are we on some kind of a time limit to do the paving of the roads? Do they need to be done by fall or rain, or how does that work?
Yeah, so there's rain affects when you're overlaying because they don't adhere to the surface underneath. You can pave on just crushed rock. It's more forgiving. It can be wet or damp, but temperature is going to be the big issue. But out there where it's pretty dry and the time is extended, so we just have to watch temperatures and then moisture, obviously.
So right now we're not thinking that we might run out of time on both these this year.
No, we'll be fine.
Yeah. Of course, we do have the ultimate, they do shut the plants down eventually.
Well, that could happen. Yeah, there's that.
But that's normally, it's pretty late. That's, we're getting.
End of November.
End of November, you're done.
They'll stop making
they stop making it.
Because the reason I asked is because I was surprised Darwin got worked on so late in the year. That kind of was like, I don't know that I've ever seen a project happen that late in the year, so that's why I was curious.
Yeah, the surface, that chip seal, that's not going to last. It wouldn't last if we were to do that. But the earthwork, here it's fairly, the farther east we get, it's just more forgiving, and moisture is your big enemy for that. But the subgrade's fine, and the surfacing, just the surface will peel that off before we pave it, so it should be okay too. Let's see, Design projects, really no change. Our lead designer was out last week, and so everybody else worked on the pieces of the projects that they were working on, and everybody's back now, so moving forward on all those projects. Maintenance side, our crews yesterday, we had some rockier material in the warm-up arena, and so last week we got a rock picker, and there were a few of us that actually picked rocks ourselves, and we determined that was not going to work. We were never going to get ahead of it. So yesterday, Tony Riley generously donated a sandy, really good looking material, and so our crews hauled that, and we brought in about 48 loads, I think. 48 loads. Wow. So, and we buried the rocks.
Essentially, very generous.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So
right out of Lyle.
Not 4 to 8 loads.
No, 48 loads.
Yeah, 48 loads. Yeah, and it was in Lyle, so it was a long haul for us. It was a full day. So,
you know, just up a canyon where he has that quarry.
Yeah. So.
Oh, that stuff. Yeah, that would be really good stuff.
Yeah, it's really good. Yes. Yeah.
What is the Estem Road? What are we doing out there? What's the purpose? I mean, we worked on it a year or so ago, if I remember right. Is there just a plan to, I mean,
yeah, since we have the quarry that's there. So we've had, I think when BPA came in, they built the north side of Esteb from the river, basically north. And so we have our quarry on Esteb Road, and there's basically no rock on it, so we can't really maintain anything on it. So we wanted to make sure we at least build as much of it as we can, so we can maintain it, since we haul on it frequently.
How far are we building down? Are we going from Federal Highway to the river, or how much of that are we doing?
Yeah, Horseshoe Road down. I don't know if they're how far going.
We're going back the other way towards Horseshoe back.
From the quarry.
From the quarry.
So you're just going fully to Horseshoe back.
Yeah, because that's typically where we haul out of. And yeah, like Gordy said, plus we should do that because we make everybody else do it. And we're getting the material, a lot of it's grindings.
So when it's all completed, that section there should be really nice and graded nicely, but then the section from the gravel pit to the river is still going to be a little lumpy going out there.
Yes. Yeah. So it's kind of one of those roads that'll get built in pieces. Yeah. Let's see. So sand of the fairgrounds, hot mix patching and grading roads. That's east end crew, west end crew. They helped haul sand. We had all of our trucks going. They're chip sealing in Dowsport, where we extended the sewer. Shepler Road, and Holland Rock on Schilling Road. So it's kind of one of those times a year where we're
where does the rock on Schilling, where does that come out?
Come out of Bench.
Okay. Like there really is nothing any closer.
How many rock pits does the county own? Gravel pits?
We have there's 5 main pits. We have Matson, Estep.
Okay, Matson
on the east side, and then we have Estep, which we talked about. We have Badger, which is off on Pickleton Highway. Then we have Bingen, which is the Dickey quarry, referred to right along the highway. And then we have Fisher Hill, which is up on top of the plateau.
That's that, like between Glenwood and Lyle.
Yeah, up on the Fisher Hill Road. We're not very creative with our names.
Yeah. Right off Fisher Hill Road.
That one's kind of sits back. Yeah. You can't really see it from
if you look back in there,
you can see the rock.
You can see the rock pile. You know to look, but there's no.
But if you walk back, there's a giant hole.
Yeah.
And we used to have a lot more, but we've really consolidated because of the cost to have quarries anymore. The permit prices. It's just not worth having a lot of different locations.
Yeah, we've closed a lot of quarries over the years.
What do you do with a closed quarry?
We give it, a lot of them we leased. So they open them for projects, essentially. They used to open them and the rules weren't as stringent. So you could open them, do your crushing, so you do right on site, there'd be no trucking. And then you just reclaim them real quick. Now it's not that deal. You got to permit them and go through the whole 9 yards.
That's why we only have 5.
Yes, and they're very expensive, like Gordy said, to hold, or not very, but yeah.
Okay. We're gonna also.
Of the 5, we actually own 2. The other 3 are leased.
On the facility side, the new building, the transformer got set last week. They're working in the alley on our drainage system, and they're it seems like we're just kind of tying up all the little loose ends other than the roads outside the building, but carpeting and flooring started this week. So in the casework, cabinets went in. Most all the rest of the ones where they have to fabricate countertops, and so it's really starting to come together pretty quick with the details. So that's good because we have about 6 weeks left, so they have to. So the courthouse front parking lot, they said they're going to start that on the 6th. So after the holiday weekend, then they'll close that, and we're trying to
be done before that.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out how close we'll be with the courthouse entrance project to tearing that one up. So, but we have a path, a gravel path, so that entrance, the front entrance, will still be open, but people have to use the path.
Yeah,
Until that sidewalk gets poured. So.
Well, people are finding ways to get into the building.
Yeah. I think it was a challenge initially, especially the ADA people.
Yeah, it's still a challenge because you're parking. You're like, dang it, I read that memo, but now I have to walk across around
all the way around.
Yeah, park on the
other side. Yeah.
That was me this morning.
Yeah. So that's going on. And then they're still working on mechanical. The electricians are still behind. They're starting to punch down the cables into the server room. So it's coming together. I think after the first of the next month, Jeff Rowe and his guys will get in there and they'll start setting up, getting ready to set up the server and get things ready and operational in the building. So lots of things going on in the building next door. See, we talked briefly about courthouse entry.
Yeah, I may have now. As soon as I said, I think I lied. Because I forgot the guy who's going on vacation. The guy that runs the plant goes on vacation for 2 weeks.
But no concrete.
So we're going to get the idea is to get the concrete for the south side this week. We're pushing hard to get that because I'm not letting them tear apart the north side till we at least get a firm date when we get concrete. Because I don't want to wait I don't want to have both of them torn apart and not get concrete till September. So the idea is to put that one back this week, and then they'll demo the north side and start forming. So when the guy gets back from vacation, we can
be ready to pour.
We can be ready to pour, and hopefully we won't find another bolt or another open.
There's only one guy that works at the concrete place.
Well, seems to be there's the one guy that runs the master. Yeah, seems to be is the
one that knows the formula, the secret.
Yeah, not training anybody else.
Security, I guess.
Yeah,
it is. Let's see. So fair, we kind of talked briefly about. I think our guys are kind of wrapping up the last things that we need to, because they start today. So it'll be busy now until Sunday afternoon, and then
PA's in and all that good stuff.
Yes. Yep. All those extra things are done working, and everybody's trained. Let's see. Sadis Pass, I don't know if you want to add anything new.
Yeah, we're going to meet next week with our consultant to find a time to fly the site. And then we'll have it pinpoint down and finalize our agreement with the other groups, with the conservation district.
Okay. So, and the last thing I had this handout for Murdoch and Highway 14. So this I got, it was it was actually sent to us in 2017 when the end of 2017. And so this was their proposal, and they asked us for information on how to get a hold of the, the council in Dallasport and some community contacts. And so in 2019 was the last email I had from them. So basically they're proposing, or we're proposing at the time, that there'd be a ramp down to 50, then 40, and then back up again in the same zone. So they would go down from 60 to 50 to 40 and then back up again. So similar to what happens in Lyle, where there's several speed changes just to reduce you down slowly. But this was the last proposal, so I can follow up with Dave Berkey and find out, but I just wanted to pull this up because we had talked about it.
Yeah, that's good. And I am, this will likely be on the community council agenda. They do have they've got a meeting on the 9th of September that I'm going to attend.
Okay.
I spoke with the chair last night, but she said he thanked you for your reach out as well. And I said, yeah, I'll come face the firing squad. Yay, my district. So, it will be fine. He assured my personal safety would be not in jeopardy, which I wasn't particularly concerned, but I think this will be, because I think the folks in Murdoch are trying to communicate with the community council to get them engaged. And so there would be contact also with WashDOT, so that they're because there really hasn't been much apparently hearing from them. Everything was kind of on hold during, I think, because of COVID and everything. That, as you said, this was back in 17.
Yeah, the last correspondence was the end of 19, so right before COVID.
Right before COVID, and I think everything was just on pause, time out.
Yeah,
and so I think they're hopeful something's going to happen. So. Okay, thanks for that information.
Yeah, if I get an email back from Dave Berkey, I'll forward it on to you about where they're at.
I have one thing, and I guess this is kind of for you and you mostly. I would like to get a little time put on an agenda coming up to discuss fleet management software, potentially what department would be operating that. Sounds like a perfectly good time to bring it up. She might be one of them.
Okay.
That maybe we can coordinate with all the people across the hall and the people in the room and have some discussions.
That's something we
do. I was going through the bills today, and when I find $140 oil changes, it's very frustrating for
anything else? Jake, anything from your side? He's online, so.
He's been unmuted.
Nothing for me.
Okay, great. Thank you, Commissioner Anderson. I don't really have anything. It's been, I was gonna say, it's been a quiet week. It hasn't, just not anything that's relevant to you folks.
That's good.
Yeah. At least I don't think so. No.
When do you start your brushing? That's fall, right?
Yeah.
When do we make suggestions for areas that are in dire need of brushing?
Anytime. Yeah. Anytime we'll take the service requests. We just wait for the right time to do the work.
Yeah. Good enough.
Okay.
All right.
We're done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have fun out on the fair.
Oh yeah.
I'll have to make sure if I see Mr. Riley, I'll have to thank him.
Yeah.
Yes.
Generous gift. That's nice material.
Yeah. It is. Yeah, and it occurred a couple of years ago, if you remember, when we had the monsoon in August that flooded out the large arena.
Oh yeah.
And we had to bring in sand, and so Tony
he gave it to us
generous
at that time
too.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which we got that from Dallasport, but this stuff is better because it's coarser material. Yeah. It'll stay down. The other stuff, you put that directly down, it'd be blowing all over.
Well, it'd blow away. This stuff
sandblast paint right off the building.
Yeah, no, that's good material.
Look at who was online, but I'm like, Yeah, I won't even say it because there are people online. Generous donation, as I guess.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
To the fair.
To the fair.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks, Doug.
Gordy, this even includes you guys too with our fairgrounds. If we're going to get a caliber of competitor, that have $60,000 horses, maybe it would be a good thing to compare our rates for rental. And that could be a more of a money-making venue. I worked for the Appaloosa Horse Club, the National Breeding Horse Association, and we did world and national shows. So, I mean, we have definitely a horsey environment here. And if we could attract bigger events, that might be a revenue source.
Right. Oh, yeah.
I think there's pros and cons to that because even back in campaign season, I was approached by the horsey club people that thought our rates were too high, that they could do more shows and promote more tourism and more economic development by having the prices lower. So there's a pro and a con. Right? In other words, I received pushback already.
Yes, I'm married to a horse person. I know all about that. So.
Thankfully, I'm not.
They value their horses very high, and they value what they should have to pay very low.
Right.
Should be free.
Yes.
Free to free to run the event.
Yes.
But the prizes need to be high.
Right. Yes.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Thank you.
Hi, Gordon. I'm good. How are you? Good. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. Chris, all ready to go?
Thank you for allowing me to read your report again.
Before I sent it this time, I made sure that I switched it.
For everybody but Dan.
Well, I don't know how that works. I give up.
Either that or I'm always the first person to try to open it. And that could be.
That could be.
But I'm the first person by the time they open it, it's already been.
It's already been fixed.
Permissions have been granted.
Yeah, because I have not had any problem.
See, so maybe.
Well, I usually open it like 5 minutes after she sends it.
Right, so. I don't.
And I told him, I said, well, there's a reason I don't work for IT.
Yeah.
Your AC works in here.
Yeah, feels good.
Wow.
It is right now.
Blow some down the East District.
Well, Mr. Under Sheriff, you're obviously filling in for the sheriff. So whenever you're ready.
All right. I think I sent this to you guys, so you have a copy of it. So a total of 5,707 calls for service, January 1st to August 9th. It's about a 2% increase from during that same time from last year. In addition to the calls for service, deputies served a total of 301 civil papers during that same time period. That's about a 9% decrease during the same time period last year. And that's kind of subject to the stuff that comes out of the courts. Deputies issued 346 traffic infractions, 4 non-traffic infractions, 77 criminal traffic citations, and 46 non-traffic criminal citations. That's about the same number as last year.
Do you know, because when I read that, I kind of questioned, is that, I mean, last year and this year, COVID years,
right?
Is it kind of the same number as 3 years ago? Or do you know that information off the top of your head?
Yes and no. So I was writing tickets and I probably did about half that number myself for the infractions. I did a lot of traffic enforcement in between calls. I just tried to stay busy.
Looking at the budget, I'm looking at revenues from traffic citations and it's down from where
it's decreasing. And then our traffic deputies, we have two guys that's kind of their full-time responsibility is to do that. Obviously we're short some positions, so they're not doing as much of that right now. So I think if we're
In years past, we've been about, I think, around 2,000 infractions total for the entire year. And
it's not that I'm asking you to write more tickets.
No, and it's
it's budget. So I'm trying to.
Yeah, it is situation dependent on who gets a ticket and why tickets are issued. And then right now our traffic deputies, we're using them for patrol. So we did lose obviously Mike Callio, but we lost Melissa White. At the moment, Tony Warren was hired as a lateral, but he has to go through an equivalency. He's there right now going through that. So we're hoping to fill that. And then obviously I'll get to our other position here shortly. So we're down personnel. So I think COVID last year, it was kind of the, what do we recommend to our people? And so everybody had to make a decision. And did they contact somebody for going a little over the speed limit and risk getting COVID?
Right.
So it was kind of a spot that everybody had to.
Is this a COVID thing or?
I think it is. Yes, I really think it is. And then just when you hire new people, they tend to be very proactive on going out and writing tickets because it's kind of a cool new thing. And then as we get more experience, it's kind of less up. It is.
I mean, more people.
I'm just, that's from my own personal experience. I mean, when I became a cop, I was like, yes.
There's no quota in the sheriff's office.
There is no quota. There is no quota. In fact, we let them go out and write as many tickets as they want.
It won't let me go write tickets though.
I'm kind of disappointed because
and there are some deputies that they're more into, if they make traffic stops, they're less inclined to write a ticket, because they have the discretion on what type of enforcement they do. They can write a ticket, they can choose not to write a ticket. And so some deputies choose not to. It's just their own personal kind of situation. So we're still working on body camera research to present to the Board of County Commissioners. We have met with WatchGuard, GTech, and Axon representatives, and we are awaiting final costs to add to our presentation to the Board of County Commissioners.
Do you happen to know the date of when that's mandated that it has to be done by the state?
I don't believe. Yeah, my understanding is it's not a mandated thing, but it's a strongly encouraged thing. And then starting January 1, if we have interviews of suspects, we have to record those interviews. I think it's January 1 on that. There's so many different dates that they keep.
Right. It's confusing. Yeah.
I think it's like January 1 that we have to start recording. We have, I believe all the patrol cars on the road have working dash cameras except for one. And that one's slotted to be replaced this year anyway. So we have some way to record audio and video. The downside of the dash cameras is if you move too far away from the vehicle, then you don't get the audio. The body camera also is on that deputy, so you'd be able to get a better view. For our detectives, we do have like the GoPros that they can use. They can hook their computers in and go that direction on things. So we do have some ways to at least record audio and video from any interviews that we have going. So on July 10th, 2021, we attended the Golden Dome Community Days event. We participated in the parade and had a booth on East Main Street. The event had large crowds and we received a lot of positive feedback from the attendees. On July 31st, 2021, we attended the Trout Lake Fair. We participated in and provided some traffic control for the parade. We walked around the fair event at Camp Jonah. The event had large crowds and we received some very positive feedbacks from the attendees. Volunteers with the Klickitat County Posse have been assisting with courtroom security. We've received positive feedbacks from the judges on the vital role the volunteers have been providing. A number of employees have tested positive for COVID-19. The employees are all doing well, and we want to assure the Board of County Commissioners that no services have been interrupted. On July 25th, several new law changes, several new laws changing the way law enforcement does business went into effect. We've worked hard to ensure the public or the safety of the public has not been affected. Due to the fact that the laws were poorly written and the sponsors of the bills have admitted that they do not intend the bills to say what they say, the safety of the public could be jeopardized. The bill states law enforcement agencies are required to provide less lethal options for law enforcement, but the bill specifically states law enforcement is prohibited from having ammunition larger than a 50 caliber. Less lethal rounds start at around a .781, so almost 50% larger than what we're allowed to have. This puts law enforcement in a predicament, since we are required to provide less lethal options, but not allowed to provide the ammunition for the less lethal options.
Whoever wrote that.
Well, and they've admitted that they've come out and said that's not what their intent was for it.
Well, I can see them saying that you can't have a 50 caliber rifle because that's kind of,
Well, it was, I believe that what they've said is the intent on that related to military equipment. And there's a lot of stuff specific about military equipment in that. And I had to ask the question, is like a beanbag round or a less lethal round, is that even considered ammunition? And yes, it is. It is considered that. So they've asked the Attorney General's office to come out with an opinion stating that is different, but in the meantime, I think that even once that comes out, I think the way that the wording is, until the wording's changed, we're kind of stuck.
So you guys made a policy decision on whether you're taking the beanbag?
So we're still in discussion on that. So some law enforcement agencies in the state are removing beanbags and less lethal shotguns from their patrol vehicles, while other agencies are leaving beanbags and less lethal shotguns in their patrol vehicles. This is a situation where we could get sued if we don't provide them to our employees. And we could also get sued if we do provide them to our employees. So it's basically like we're screwed either way. And some of the discussions that we've had are, if we get into a lethal situation and we didn't provide a less lethal option for our employees, like the beanbag rounds, what is the potential liability on the county if we take that position, as opposed to if we provide them, they use them, save the person's life, and then the person hires an attorney to sue the county.
And I'm assuming you're having conversations.
We have had some conversations about that, yes. Additionally, the law changes affect vehicle pursuits. The law severely limits when we can conduct vehicle pursuits. The law requires that a supervisor has to authorize the law enforcement officer prior to initiating the vehicle pursuit. And the law also requires the supervisor to have control over the pursuit. This may have an effect on how we staff the sheriff's office and how our ranking structure is set up. So right now we have what's called a duty supervisor. So in the event that we don't have a sergeant on duty, then it falls on a duty supervisor. And I know that there were some union negotiations and some discussions that have been had where the supervisors can, on their days off, can go to Portland, go to Vancouver, go run the errands that they need. And as long as they have their cell phone with them and they're accessible, then that satisfied what the county expected of them. So if they are to leave the area and be expected to have control over that pursuit, I would think there could be some issues down the road that no, they didn't have control of the pursuit because they weren't even in the same state. So we'll have to have some discussions at a further point, whether that means we look at maybe some corporal positions where they assume the sergeant's role when the sergeant's not there. I think these will be things brought up in the in negotiations. So just things to plan ahead for. Some major changes affecting any of the commission employees dealing with decertification through the Washington State Criminal Justice Training Commission. So I prepared this report last week, and in that same week, the Washington State Criminal Justice Training Commission sent out notification to law enforcement officers and corrections officers regarding all employees agree to give the Washington State Criminal Justice Training Commission access to any social media sites, and anyone refusing to provide access to social media sites may face decertification hearings. The Washington State Criminal Justice Training Commission is also requiring employees of law enforcement agencies to sign a waiver releasing personal files, disciplinary, termination, civil, and criminal investigations, or other records or information that are directly related to any certification or decertification related to the law enforcement officer's employment. So I brought mine with me. I signed mine because I have nothing to hide. It says, I understand this is an application for certification to the commission, and hereby attest that I have read and understand the requirements of RCW 43-101-095, and that I have met all the requirements and prerequisites for certification. I have also reviewed and acknowledged the conditions contained in RCW 43-101-105, which may lead to the denial or revocation of my certification. I hereby authorize and consent to and release of my personal files, including disciplinary, termination, civil and criminal investigation, or other records of information that are directly related to any certification or decertification matter before the commission. I further consent and agree to facilitate a review of any of my social media accounts immediately upon the request of a representative of the commission. I understand that failure to facilitate such a review when requested may result in a decertification action. So then I asked penalty of perjury stuff at the end of that.
Have you heard in your department of any pushback on that?
Yes. Absolutely. So the union, my understanding is the union's position is that they are not to sign that. The Fraternal Order of Police has said not to sign it. There are other agencies out there that are recommending that law enforcement doesn't sign it. And I guess there is case law that this goes against, where it says that outside of their personal, outside of their professional positions, their cell phones, their social media, and there's some other things listed in there, like emails and things of that nature, on their private stuff, is not subject to review by the agencies. So I don't know the specific on that, but I am aware that there's a lot of pushback from that, not just in our agency, it's statewide.
Right.
This might be more a question to prosecute. What happens if people are not compliant and they refuse to sign it?
So I would think that if they're decertified, then they can't work as a law enforcement officer, right? Give them a position on that.
I don't know the details, but it is like an affirm that if they lose their certification, they cannot be employed as a law enforcement.
Right. So
it's really going to fall on the certification. I mean, on what action they take if they have widespread non-compliance.
Yeah. And there is a deadline. I think it's is it October? It's October or November or something like that to sign. I think it was October. I know I read through it, and what I did is I looked at my own account. Like, I've never really looked at my social media account to see what I have. I don't have anything in any of my accounts that I would ever be worried about. So anyway. Due to the changes in the laws related to law enforcement, Reserve Deputy Ryan Flory withdrew from the hiring process after passing a background investigation, the polygraph, to accept a position with the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. So Ryan has been working as a seasonal law enforcement officer for Kootenai County. And after the law changes in Washington State, Ryan decided to seek a law enforcement job outside of Washington State. Around the same time, Ryan was approached from the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office and asked to take a full-time position. Ryan has been a very valuable asset to the Klickitat County Sheriff's Office during the 2 years he volunteered with Klickitat County Sheriff's Office. We wish Ryan well in his new endeavor. So he was a reserve deputy for us, volunteered a lot of his time, and was excited to come over full-time. Some of the laws were just coming out when he accepted the job with us. We did his background investigation. We paid for his polygraph. And he was scheduled to do his psychological exam within about a week at that time. And he just decided that looking at the laws, he would look outside of Washington. I did look at the pay scale, and they pay about a third less than we do where he's going. So it was a tough decision for him. On August 1st, 2021, Sergeant Joe Riggers celebrated 28 years with the Klickitat County Sheriff's Office. August 1st, 2021, Deputy Mitch Kegley celebrated 24 years with the Klickitat County Sheriff's Office. August 1st, 2021, Pat Cayley celebrated 21 years with the Klickitat County Sheriff's Office. And August 1st, 2021, Detective Jason Raytalk celebrated 20 years with the Klickitat County Sheriff's Office. Currently, 9 of our 18 commissioned law enforcement positions are eligible for retirement based on age and or time of service. So we do have one retirement. He has set the date of December 30th. That's Deputy Jim Laniger. He's been with us for 20 plus years. Yes. Over 20 years, I believe. And he worked for the Pinja White Salmon Police Department prior to that. We do have 2 additional patrol positions that have expressed that sometime next year they are hanging it up. And we've started to hear from a few other people that are discussing it. It takes about a year from the time that we post a position and test for that person to get hired. Before that person, we put them through the background investigation, then we send them to the academy. Then once they're out of the academy, they go through an FTO process. From beginning to end, we actually don't know whether they will make it or not. But once they make it, it's usually a year from the time that they started the testing process before we can fill that position. So, and then I'll refer everything back over to Carmen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
On July 19th, we received word that James Saunders, one of our corporals, and his girlfriend Sarah welcomed the birth of their son. They're in Florida where Sarah resides, and we're all anxious to hopefully get that baby back up here so we can see him. I'm not sure how James made it down there. He worked on the 18th, so it must have been a very quick flight to Florida. Chris Ballesteros has been providing me with weekly updates from CJTC. He is in his 7th week of the academy. He's enjoying his curriculum and he's excited to come back and share everything that he's learning. And he's on target to graduate in September. I believe their target date for graduation is the 10th. We haven't heard if they're doing any in-person graduations. The last graduation was a drive-through parking lot graduation. I'm not quite sure how that went. I did not attend that. On July 17th, Civil Service conducted a test for the control board and civil clerk position. We had a good turnout and we interviewed 5 candidates for the control board position. We asked 2 of them to return for a second interview. I was really torn between 2, so I had my sergeant and corporal interview both of them. We've now given a conditional offer to Danielle Goodman. She's a lifelong resident of Goldendale and should be a good fit. So she's got our packet and she will be going through the background process. On July 24th, the Civil Service conducted another corrections deputy test, and we once again have an active list of candidates. Corrections Deputy Anderson remains in his current position, but he is actively seeking employment on the west side to join his wife where she took a position over, I believe like in Arlington, somewhere up in there. I do know that Anderson has an interview with Marysville Police or jail this next week or two. On July 27th, Wade Zielinski was charged in Superior Court with assault 3. The victim in this case was Corporal Brandon Walter. This was the third assault case against Mr. Zielinski since he had been in our custody. Mr. Zielinski is considered an extreme officer safety risk, and he's closely monitored at all times. On August,
what is the likely length of his stay in our facility?
Well, I was going to get to that.
Oh, okay.
I'll jump ahead. I'll jump ahead. So yesterday he had court. He pled guilty to that third assault. He was sentenced to 1 year and a day. So he is scheduled to be sent off to prison here shortly.
Okay.
So that was good news for our staff. On August 1st, Eric Glover was officially hired as our casual in the jail. Eric is familiar with the jail and its functions while he served as a KCSO reserve deputy, and we welcome the extra help and the knowledge that he brings back into the jail. Eric has a photographic memory, so he never forgets anything. So he just walked in and went to work. It was pretty nice. Just after 4 a.m. on August 10th, corporal and corrections deputies were on a routine exterior patrol of the courthouse. It was Corporal Walter and corrections deputy Sendejas. While in the rear parking lot area near Grant and Court Street, they heard a female yelling. They located a 97-year-old female that had fallen near the construction site. The female was found with some injuries, and due to the time of the morning, she was also cold from being exposed for an unknown amount of time. It's my understanding she'd probably been out there about 3 to 4 hours.
Where was she at?
Right over here in this area.
Like she tried to come up the sidewalk.
Not
the sidewalk anymore?
Not sure. She lives in, I believe it's the lady that lives in the little single wide right back here. Because I know she, and I don't know if she's got dementia or what.
At that time of night.
Right. So they ran and grabbed a blanket, of course, called 911, and the medics and law enforcement were dispatched, and she was transported to KBH. I don't know the outcome of that. We never get that information, but had they not heard her and out been doing their job, that definitely would have had a far worse outcome. It is important to note that the corrections staff routinely check the outside perimeter of the entire courthouse during the nighttime hours. They find unlocked cars. You'd be amazed at how many people, park the vehicle back here and then forget to lock it. So they come across that. On August 19th, ARC Tactical Development will provide a dynamic cell extraction training for the Corrections Division. This training was advertised through CJTC and has had a positive response throughout the state. Currently, we have 17 enrolled for the course. 10 of those are from agencies located throughout the state. I know as far away right now as Snohomish County is coming in this week for this training. Courts, the posse continues to assist the court security for Superior Court, East District Court, and West District Court. Judge Krogh has requested security now during all of the court proceedings like we were doing pre-COVID. And with our current staffing situation, I'm only able to provide this level of security using the posse. They are an asset to our department, providing service not only to the courts, but to the public. I do not have the number of volunteer hours currently for court security, but I will be those hours calculated. So this week, this week I've got upstairs court 4 days this week, and we also have a trial in West District. So posse is supplying all the security for that. I'm finalizing the purchase of a phone for our video courtroom located in the jail. I had been in conversation with Judge Baker, and this will allow the attorneys and inmates to have confidential phone conversations during phone hearings with West District Court. It will also allow us to save all those weekly trips to West District for court appearances. He purchased a cell phone for the attorneys to use down there, so it'll be a confidential attorney-client during court for them. That'll reduce our costs for overtime, transport, wear and tear on our vehicle, fuel. A number of arrests on warrants on the out of county is on the rise, and I attribute this to the summer weather and traveling is more leisurely with fewer restrictions from COVID. Our agency has traveled to Benton County, Yakima County, Klickitat County, and Wasco County, and will continue to work with agencies across Washington and Oregon, moving inmates with warrants to various facilities. Keeping a working relationship with agencies has proven beneficial when we have subjects across both Oregon and Washington with our warrants and making transportation arrangements. Having that working relationship has been vital in like transporting with DOC, and we had a gentleman in on a marshal's warrant last week. They were going to come down and get him, but we were already going up north, so we just dropped him. We were going to the same facility, so it made more sense. And I have to say, I think that's really helpful. If I have somebody on the far east side, I can get them moved usually pretty quickly because they know that we cooperate with everybody on the chain. So we're getting the benefits of the chain and not so much incurring all the costs like we were when we were on the chain. Mental health services continue to be needed on an established schedule for the inmates. We have several who could benefit from a weekly counseling session to maintain balanced mental health. Oftentimes, you know, they come in and they've been with mental health services. Those, of course, go away while they're incarcerated. So anything they've gained is then lost. So we could continue to have inmates who arrive in a mental health crisis. They're refusing medications and they remain isolated for their safety and staff safety. I have one gentleman who's been isolated for months and months and months, but we've had a few people who've been able to incorporate with him. We have to be very leery of him assaulting somebody, but it's not good to have him isolated either. I've got one right now in crisis. I'm trying to get him, we're going to have comprehensive come back and see him today and hopefully get him committed under gravely disabled. He's refusing to eat and drink, and so it's all documented, and I'm also working with his attorney on getting a commitment order for him through the courts for a competency evaluation. So he's a direct threat for our safety. He's very aggressive and could be a real problem child. We had to call him back up last week, and he was put into our restraint, the wrap, for a number of hours because he was bashing his head on the wall. Brian B continues to field all of our calls, texts, and emails daily from staff and getting the approval of medications, refills, medical emergencies, and any other questions the team may have for inmates. I do have to say, we have not had the ambulance this week at the jail. We've had many medical emergencies in jail this month that resulted in the ambulance in the facility 3 times. Out of the 3, only 1 inmate was transported. Without a full-time nurse or medical staff, inmates rely on the knowledge and quick thinking of the correction staff, and they are quick to grab a blood pressure cuff and get vitals so that we can give to medics and stuff, because that's all information that they're asking. They regularly check blood sugars, blood pressure, dispense medications, and attend to minor injuries such as cuts, scrapes, and sprains. I spent the past month addressing our current policy and procedure manual for the Corrections Division. The new legislative decisions that went into effect recently directly impact the way we operate our facility. House Bill 1310 at this time does not include our corrections deputies, but it does affect the road deputies and city officers who we rely on for backup. Currently, we are following the conversations between WASPC and the legislators to see how to make the necessary changes to our policy. It's going to take a while for all that to play into effect. So I don't know how soon that part of the policy will be finalized. I'm also updating the evacuation procedures for the jail to be consistent with our policy manual. It is imperative to have a plan in place that reflects policy, provides a safe and secure environment for the inmates and staff, and keeps the public safe during an emergency. I'll be working with various departments within the county and seeking input from other surrounding jails. I've already talked with Public Works and security building at the fairgrounds that we could evacuate to on a couple hours short-term event while we got things squared away to move inmates to another jail or certain inmates released. I am meeting also this next week with Noah Holm, the fire chief for Goldendale. Part of the fire plan for the facility is to have a pre-plan with the fire department. So we're going to work on that. So we'll have hopefully all that finalized in the next couple of months. We provided 2 inmates who qualified for an outside work crew to assist buildings and grounds with some work at the fairgrounds. In previous years, this has been an easy task. However, we haven't had as many opportunities to assist with our limited number of inmates. This is a good opportunity for inmates to work outside and provide a service to the community. The 2 that went outside were grateful to get outside and spend some time outdoors and some sunshine. The jail population has been fluctuating between 15 and 25 inmates on a steady basis. And while the population remains low, the amount of work has not decreased. We found that the inmates we are housing require far more attention due to mental health and behavior issues. These type of inmates increase the amount of time we respond to out of control behavior, resulting in increased report writing and documentation. It has been absurd. These people that are in there just demand so much more attention than if we were full and had 49 people or more. The workload is not decreased, it's just increasing. The amount of court paperwork just seems to be increasing. Housing mentally ill people in jails is a familiar scene, not only in our state, but nationwide. And with the mental health laws, the lack of services and the reduction of mental health hospitals, the person with mental illness suffers. Families also are directly affected. The members of law enforcement and corrections patrol and dispatchers are also feeling the strain. It is the communities that see repercussions from a failed system. It's only going to get worse with the new laws, especially the drug laws. Now they're just self-medicating and they can get by with it. It's legal for them to have the drugs. So it's very frustrating. Lastly, I'd like to mention that we resolved a long-standing transportation issue following the release of an inmate from custody. Frequently, the inmates do not have family or friends who can provide them a ride home once released, and we've been able to purchase tokens through the Mount Adams Transportation and obtain the bus schedules that allow us to adjust their release times. So bus tokens are $1 a piece. We purchased $100 worth of them, and now we just we can adjust their release time so they're during a period where they could catch a bus, because otherwise there's either hitchhiking or begging for a ride home or walking, and that's not always safe. So
or sleeping
in the jail lobby. Yes. So also we were talking about courts yesterday. Wade Zielinski pled out to the 1 year and 1 day on his custodial assault. That's the 3rd custodial assault he pled out on since his arrival.
What was he originally in for?
I think about 12 probation violations. He had multiple charges out of East District Court, and all of those were probation. And then they charged him with like 5 probation charges on this cause number and 12 on it. Was very confusing. Travis G was sentenced on 8/2 in Klickitat County Superior Court to 33 months for a domestic violence court order violation. And so he will be sent off in this round. DOC only transports every other week, so we have varying weeks when we can haul them away. Yesterday, Daryl Dean Coleman was sentenced in Klickitat County Superior Court to 90 months on burglary in the 1st degree, 90 months on theft of a firearm, and 90 months on theft of a firearm. Those are all to run concurrently together. So he will also be going away to DOC for quite a while. That's about all I have for now. Staying busy.
Sounds like it.
I brought actually, like, this is our schedule. This next week, so I'm relying now on Posse, my casual and deputies to help fill in shifts, and they're covering 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 shifts for me. And that's not including all the other overtime shifts that my guys are also working. It's just been brutal. There's no way I'm going to get back onto a court security at this point. We just don't have
the ability. Judges make of that.
As long as I'm providing security,
they're okay.
They're okay with it. In fact, they sent us an email thanking us for what a great job that the posse was doing. Because posse they're here every day.
And they're all volunteer.
Yeah. So it's saving the county a lot of money. Because if I had to start paying out overtime to bring in somebody every time I need court security, which is four days this week, and in this court, and 1 day in West District Court, then that's going to start adding up quickly, and I'd probably start having some very disgruntled employees because they would never have a day off. And I can't do that to them. They're already working at least 2 to 3 overtime shifts per pay period.
Side note question, back to you. What does law enforcement in the state, I guess it might be you, what does law enforcement in the state, are they mandated to do with replacement firearms? So the old ones you get rid of when you get new ones, can they go on an auction block, or do they have to be destroyed? Or
I think I think we get we go through like a company. We basically go out and get bids for surplusing them, I believe.
Like a trade-in?
Yes. Well, I think we could do either trade-in, or we can do where you go through a company that specifically surplus.
So they're not just garbage. We get money out of them when they're done.
We get a little bit of money out.
Stockpile in a
not a lot of money.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
Down in the basement.
Which brings up the next question. You have new vests on the agenda, which I have no problem with.
Sure.
What happens to the old vests?
There's a shelf life on those vests. So once you go past I think it's 5 years. And I know mine was 7 years. So 2 years ago, we tried to get me a new vest, and we had some issues with the company measuring, and we provided all the measurements. They lost them. So we've had some people that were behind that.
Are we going to put those expired vests on the county surplus auction?
I would think there'd be some liability if the county sold those and somebody put those on, and then something happened while they had those on. Something might come back. I don't think
they have expiration dates.
I think what we normally do is we give them.
I have a couple that are expired.
I think what we actually do is the firearms instructors take them out and use them for training props, so that they're able to, because they're garbage. You can't do anything with them. So I think they take them out and they shoot them up to show people what the vest will do. And so I believe there is a use for them. And the new ones are incredibly thin compared to what we used to have.
I would, yeah.
About half the weight.
Was looking at the cost and researching what they were, and I'm like,
they're not cheap, but they are a necessity for our job. They save a lot of lives.
Do you have plates in them or no plates?
That we've got some different types of plates.
And they're lightweight.
Yeah, and I believe that we have an intent to order some of the heavier plates.
2 things: the front plates,
yes,
the stop plate will be in next year's budget.
Yeah,
and which is thicker protection.
Right, they're rifle rated.
Yeah.
For those thick plates, and some of us have spent our own money to buy those just in case we get into a situation. You know, I spent close to $1,000 on some pretty heavy duty stuff. My life is worth it.
The jail staff this year was able to purchase vests custom fitted for the first time.
We had
and
some
they
shared
are
ones that
so grateful, because the ones before, like Sergeant Gillum would sit down and it would come up here. You look like a turtle. It was, and it's impossible to drive in. And so these are they're just like the deputies have. And what a difference. They're all like wearing their vests to work now, and they're all super happy. And now they're safe.
Yes.
I'm assuming they don't get bulletproof.
Yes, they do. Absolutely.
And they're as big of a target.
The steel plates rated for rifle rounds.
What if they're on a transport? What if they're standing outside the courtroom? Absolutely, that's what they should have.
They're as big of a target as we are.
Yeah.
If not bigger.
We go on transports across the state and you don't know who's out there. There's a lot that can happen on a transport, especially a high risk transport, which we do.
Ambushes are happening all over the country for law enforcement.
Which is one more reason that we haven't had our AR training, but we are putting the rifles into our transport vehicles.
Hopefully after you have.
Yes, that's why they're not in there yet.
Right.
Anything else?
I would like to mention that I'm currently working with Tim and I'll be speaking with Bob. We're going to be reviewing the meals for the jail, just so you're aware. We are not under contract with Aramark and have not been for a number of years. I asked them for a contract a couple of years ago that I could present. They've never shown me one. But we're having some issues with the meals, lots of complaints. I brought up a meal this morning. I'm getting pictures of all the meals this week so that we need to figure something out.
The quality.
It's the quality, it's the amount of food. I think if we had a better quality of food that was a healthier, nutritious meal than just the carbs and stuff that they're getting, would also cut down on our cost for gastro medications that we are constantly purchasing for inmates.
And possibly assaults.
Yeah.
If we wouldn't eat the food, why would we force somebody else to?
Yeah, it's bad.
I'm not trying to say we need to make,
they don't need to eat steak, but they need that.
They need something that is edible.
Yeah.
Because I've seen the food over the years and I wouldn't touch that.
They're not getting the fresh fruits and vegetables or anything like that they really should have. I've constantly questioned their diabetic diets. I went to culinary school. I had a mother who was a dietitian in a hospital. I understand diet. When you feed somebody who's a diabetic a meal that is noodles, that is not a diabetic diet. That turns to sugar, which makes your blood sugars go up. It should be a high protein, low carb, not a high carb, low protein. So we're doing some research. I've been in communication with Aramark and of course our local cooks too. So just so you know, something's going to be hopefully coming down the line. Okay. I just don't know how long it'll take.
And it might be a cost savings too.
Be positive.
Yeah.
If my fat fingers could cross, they'd be crossed.
I'm looking at everything.
That jail.
Maybe that's what I need to do. We can go on the jail food diet or something.
Well, the jail food diet is you get it, you look at it, you throw it away,
Or
you wait for the next
day.
Eat it back out.
Right.
That's right.
It could, could be better for me. Yeah.
All right. I don't have anything. So
I brought it up as we were going, so I'm good.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you guys.
Thanks.
Have a great day.
Keep trucking out there.
Yeah.
Now, are you going to be attending the Glenwood?
I will be at the Glenwood one tonight, yes.
Okay. So let's go ahead and move into that discussion as far as how we're planning on the format or how we're going to kind of run the meeting, because it is a town hall meeting. So I guess from at least my perspective, it'll be it's a board meeting, but we obviously we'll have other folks there as well. And so I will try to facilitate. I'm not really expecting, this is, at least from my perspective, and that's what I want to hear from folks, is that we would just kind of give a brief update as far as for the, if somebody was living under a rock that was unaware. So just a quick of where we're at as far as kind of what's going on. And then at least for me, I'm there mostly just to solicit some feedback from the community, because the board and all of us need to make a decision here pretty quick on what's our next action. Because no action is an action.
Sure.
Because we're on time frames. And so, we'll just give an opportunity for the community to comment and ask questions if we can reasonably answer them to the best. I'm going to try to keep it fairly short as far as, because I think I learned a lesson from the previous time that, you know, I'm always an advocate of just let them go until they run out, but eventually it was, I would say in retrospect, it was about an hour too long. Right. And so I'm going to avoid that. And I don't know how many people we're going to have. It is Fair Week. I did have some, pushback from folks about it's fair. It's like we understood that when we were scheduling it, but we're up against the time frame, and
the time frame's not quite as bad as we thought. We didn't realize the Supreme Court imposed the emergency rule extending some of the time frame.
Oh,
so we have 90 days from any denial of so we have currently a request for a full hearing before the board. The 9th panel, so the one in bond consideration. If it was going to be a straightforward denial, we probably would have gotten that already. So there's something going on. In any event, if we do get a denial, we have 90 days.
Not 30 days.
Right.
Okay.
90 days from that issuance of the denial. If it's not a denial, then it'll probably be several months more before the cert deadline is triggered. So as of right now, we have if it is a denial at this point, probably be about September 1st. So we have 90 days from September 1st to file the cert. So obviously can't wait until day 60 to decide to do it. Right. But it is, quite a bit more generous than the 30-day time frame that is the norm. Okay. So I just wanted to get out there.
Thank you. That I make sure I'm not saying things that are
because I did have questions on because of fair. Can we hold another one? And I'm like, well, I don't. We might. Who knows? But you can always call us personally. Right. You can always send an email. I'll be at the fair every day. Come.
What effort is being made to ensure a safe environment tonight? We had these COVID numbers recently.
I know.
Yeah.
We have 91 active cases in the county as of yesterday.
And half
this is the worst it's ever been in the county.
Right.
I'm aware there's going to be a lot of people there. So I've heard from a number of people that are planning on going. I've had people reach out and ask if I was going to go, if the sheriff was going to be there and wanted to know. So
the numbers are spiking. It's Fair Week. The sheriff apparently will not be there. That's my understanding. Yeah. At this point, I'm borderline on whether I'm going tonight, gentlemen.
Well, my plan was that I would reach out to the health director and get some guidance as what can we or shouldn't do or not do. As far as
I'm fully vaccinated. I carry masks in my vehicle. So if we get up there and the school says, don't get a mask on, I have extra masks that I can share with other people.
I'd say I never thought about that. We'll be in the school and there's a mask mandate in the school. So
yeah. So, and I've tried to be as flexible as I can.
Prepared for that.
Yeah, I've tried to be as flexible as I can with respecting what the schools want or what other places want.
I'd appreciate it. They're talking about
which is up to the always hard in public comment because you got to try to understand people's mask. And, it's not always easy.
Right.
And frankly, I'm not going to answer questions about the details of
the case
or assessments of chances. That most of my answers are going to be non-answers. I'm not sure how productive that will be.
Okay, thank you.
I've had a lot of questions that people have called in about, what's the sheriff's office doing? How do they respond to these different things? And we had a case last year that I was called out. I was a detective at the time, and I was called out to investigate. It was a rape case from a descendant of a tribal member, but the tribe said, no, it's not something we're going to get involved in. The suspect was a tribal member. I went up and I just told people, I'm not here for the politics. I'm just here to figure out what happened. And wherever the case goes, we'll get that handled. And some of the tribal officers actually showed up and stood by while I did all the work. We got that person where they needed to go. The FBI ended up taking the case. They were able to get a warrant and get an arrest and everything like that. But everybody that was involved was very appreciative of the way that we handled that. So I have some experience in dealing with some of the cases up there, and I know some of the concerns that people have. They want to know if the sheriff's office is going to continue to patrol up there. If they stop a non-tribal member, they have to let the person go, how the response is going to be. So,
On a board perspective, one of the main reasons we're having this is there is the education part, but it's also I guess I would say hearing from the citizens on where they would like us to go on this. And I think that's kind of somewhat split.
Sure.
But, you know, that's kind of hard to give them all the facts to give us an educated choice when we probably shouldn't give them all the facts.
Right.
On
we don't have that
many and best guesses.
But that's
there's probably things that we shouldn't even be talking about. So
yeah, well, I mean, for me, I think when I talk about questions, I'm not talking about specifics, taking fielding questions on the case and that kind of stuff. It's more because the law is currently the law,
right?
And there's some jurisdictional questions that, as you said, as far as how law enforcement, how's the county handling it? If we get a building permit and there's what are we doing right now?
Right.
And so just to kind of update people, because I would assume some of their response is going to be predicated on what is it now versus what it would be, you know, if this stands the way it is, then, you know, have things really significantly changed. And, you know, so that would make a difference to me as a person that lived there.
Yeah.
And, but even that, we don't have tons of answers because we have situations that haven't arisen yet.
Yeah.
That for the most part, things are business as usual, but we don't know. And that's not because there's no injunction, there's nothing. It is, you know, the lower ruling is in force right now.
Right.
But for, you know, things that have been, you know, for whatever reason, the, you know, tribal government has either chosen or that is their position that they're fine with it being just business as usual when it comes to this stuff.
Sure.
So, but we really haven't had any interaction with them. And that's, you know, I see long-term, regardless of what we do, it is inevitable. There is going to be joint management taking place in that area. And we're going to have to figure that out. And we haven't done that yet.
Right.
So I don't know. Were you able to get Erin on?
Yeah, she's on.
Okay. Hi, Erin. Yeah, we were just having a discussion about, you know, we're scheduled to have this public town hall in Glenwood tonight. We have some concerns given the, you know, what's going on with our numbers.
Does she know the numbers for Glenwood?
I
do. I pulled them up so that I'd have them. So there hasn't been a case that we're aware of in Glenwood for 19 days. It looks like there's not a lot of spread there. I can't in good conscience recommend any large group gatherings that don't include masks or distancing. I know that's not the regulation right now by any stretch of the imagination, but just based on how quickly we're seeing COVID spread right now and how easily it's spread, I would ask that be considered, while understanding that there is no requirement to have that in place.
Do you know, will it make a difference because we're meeting in the school? Are there, because I know there are in school buildings
guidelines, so yes, it would have to happen because.
But that's,
yeah, I think if you're in
present.
Yeah, I think if you're on school property, I think per their liability insurance and that sort of their rules that you would be required to wear a mask in a school no matter what.
I don't know. That is contrary to my understanding in at least one district that it is keyed to if students are present, but that may have been modified.
There is that caveat that if students are present, I know part of that is for like teachers that are working through the summer,
right,
kind of a scenario. So each school has a different, and I would just maybe reach out to them. There is some different language about how they approach having a community event versus having, you know, just your teacher in your classroom doing their thing versus having students in the school. So it's a little bit more of a complex answer, I guess.
Okay. So obviously your recommendation is people should be distant and wearing masks, even if that's okay.
Yeah. I mean, we have fair, there's just a lot going on. School's about to start. We've got the fair. I know, you know, people want to make their own choices, which I definitely encourage, but you know, I just think if there was a possibility to just have the ask at the beginning of the meeting, just say, hey, like, this is really spreading. This is really going to impact our community. If you could please wear a mask, I think would be, you know, a decent way to ask, but there is no requirement that you have to do that.
As long as we state it, that it's a recommendation and not a requirement, I don't have a problem with it.
Okay.
And, you know, there is no spread in Glenwood right now, but just in a very much know your audience sort of way, there are a lot of other communities in the county that do have a lot of spread. So if you're expecting people kind of from all over the community or all over the county, just anyway,
right,
consider that as well.
And a number of people that I have talked to are not from Glenwood that are going.
Really?
Yeah, expect other topics. Same
Yeah, but we're not going to.
Same stuff you've been dealing with.
We're not going to.
But they still might show up.
They're gonna. My understanding is they're gonna show up.
Yeah, I'm not. No, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Well, is there some? I mean, let's have a discussion about that then. If we now that the time
turned into a protest march, I'm not interested.
Well, and is it too late? The problem I have is that the impetus for doing it right now has been removed for some, like we thought we were going to get an answer from and we would have 30 days, which is a really short time frame to try to put something together for the U.S. Supreme Court. Not that 90 days is a huge amount of time.
90 days is not a huge amount of time.
But
30 days is clearly insufficient.
It's insufficient, and 90 days is better. But my concern is if we postpone because of COVID, you know, is COVID worse? Right? Is it going to be any better a month from now, or a week from now, or 2 weeks from now? I don't think so. So
some other places have dealt with different protests of various things, and they'll start their meeting, they'll go through their stuff. If it becomes an issue, they literally give them a chance to stop. If they don't, then they just leave. And you know,
yeah.
I have no interest for thinking in a spectacle.
No, I don't either. But I'm wondering from a logistical standpoint, is it if the board changed its mind, and said we're going to postpone it's Fair Week, there's all the activity
know until they got there,
and people are still going to show up. You know, we've noticed it, we've put it out there, and we at the very least, somebody, if we decided to do that, somebody has to go to inevitably deal with the people that were, you know, rearrange their whole schedules to be there.
right.
And they're not. So at least I, for one, I will go, even if and I will advise people, you know, I'll ask them. The recommendation is to please
just short time limit it.
And we're not going to take, you know, this is a topic specific meeting with the community. And that's the only thing we're here to talk about.
If they want to take some of the community members' time from their important issue in Glenwood and shout over the top of them.
Well, we're not going to have that.
Well, if we only are there for a certain period of time, then protester would be the bad guy because he's taking the time away from the track D discussion that we're there to have. So let's short time it and
okay. So we'll do the best we can.
And that's at 6:30, right?
6:30. And and that is even more pressure to me to make this as short as possible, you know, because again, it's limit exposure, limit the number of people, limit everything. Right. And we'll just try to do that. And people are happy. You want to go outside and, you know, I don't know. I'm just going to try to read the community too and be as.
I'm there to hear track B stuff. If
right.
It turns into something else, I'll just get it more.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what we'll do. So.
Okay.
You can write herd on the crowd.
They're not angry at the sheriff's office.
No,
to be honest with you.
Well, I don't know what
I'm not trying to
I don't
take a
know.
position, but
No, I don't think they're going to be. I don't know what anybody's angry about as far as track D. What's to be angry about as far as with the board or anybody else? So it is what it is. But we were just hoping to get some feedback before we make a decision.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, we'll do our best.
All right.
It'll be fine. And with that, if we can, I guess we will adjourn for lunch. Folks on Zoom, we'll be back at 1 o'clock.
See you guys at 1 or at 6:30.
Yeah, I was gonna say, coming back at 1?
No.
Now.
Okay, I will call the meeting to order. Let the record show all 3 commissioners are present. We will start first with our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the business agenda as presented.
I will second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second on the business agenda. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passed.
Don't believe we have meeting minutes, do we?
I don't think we're
I
ready.
think she had them ready.
Yeah.
Okay, we will defer those till next week. That brings us to citizen comment. This is an opportunity for citizens to address the Board of Commissioners. I would ask people to please limit their comments to 3 minutes per individual or less. We have folks in chambers and we have folks on Zoom, so we'll go back and forth. So I will take my first call in chambers. Is there anybody? Go ahead and tell me your name and community. Apparently at your option.
Yes, of course.
As always.
My name is Ivy Velarde and my address is 128 Big Springs Road. And I am here again to thank you for allowing me my 3 minutes. But I will be brief because it is 3 minutes and I have timed it, so I know I stay within the realm of the time allotted. I have 4 items that I'd like to mention. Number 1, 2 weeks ago, I've been trying to attend the meetings every 2 weeks. So 2 weeks ago, I understood that you and the county HR director stated that the position of the county code enforcement officer was a very high priority and had been approved and would be posted without haste. Due to the urgency of the items in need of attention, like the Steve Shields Cerberus firing range. In checking the county's job postings this morning, I do not see this position listed yet. So I'm asking, what is the status and what is your expected posting date?
I can tell you, I personally know the employee that typed out that job posting yesterday. I don't know that it's not on there, but I know it was done yesterday.
Okay. It's not on the postings out the front door, and it's not on the webpage. So
well, it might be today. I don't know. I'd have to ask. I
Okay.
just know yesterday it was talked about being created.
great, wonderful. Number 2, as I'm reading and learning about county codes, I have discovered that there's also Washington State RCWs, Revised Code of Washington, and RCW code number 7.48.130, public nuisance defined, reads a public nuisance is one which affects equally the rights of an entire community or neighborhood, although the extent of the damage may be unequal. My question to you is, how can this be applied to the violation before us, the gun range? And does the complaint need to be registered with the state directly? And is this complaint come from our county commissioners or from the citizens of the state? So that's another question that I have.
Make sure I want to make sure 7.40.130.
7.48130. There is also an RCW 15.83.050 that speaks of violations and complaints. And I have attached, I'll leave this with the with Lee, it speaks to the complaints. It speaks to, quote, if any person is charged with a violation, an investigation shall occur. It goes on to say that if the preponderance of the evidence shows that the person named in the complaint has engaged or is engaging in any prohibited practice, an order requiring that person to cease and desist from the practice will occur. End of quote. And that's an RCW also.
Okay.
So just that's for information purposes. So I'm kind of discovering these things as I'm looking into this. And then finally, last week we had a fire scare in our neighborhood. We're out Old Mountain Road. After making a call to Rural 7, it appeared to be coming from just
Finish your sentence.
Okay, I know I was interrupted.
You were interrupted.
Yes,
so
and I've just got a few sentences here. Appeared to be coming from just northeast of our property. I headed out to investigate, and the road directly north of our property is Cattle Drive, which the gun range is on. This is one of the worst roads I have traveled in this county. It is dangerous, steep in places, full of large loose rocks, holes that are not passable that force a vehicle to drive off the road to get past. This is the road that dozens of customers at the gun range must drive. Another reason that this gun range is totally out of compliance. Again, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And I appreciate your responses.
You will be able to leave a copy of that with the clerk. Perfect. Thank you.
Speaking of fire, there's one at 100 block of Railroad Avenue in Wishroom that's got structures on fire right now. Just what we wanted, right?
Okay, we are in citizen comment. I will go to the Zoom folks or on phone. If you wish to provide public comment, please.
Pat Arnold's had her hand up.
Oh, Pat Arnold, you've had your hand up for a while, so you get to go first.
Thank you. Am I unmuted?
You are unmuted. Go ahead.
Okay. I want to comment on the issue of the code compliance officer that's on your consent agenda. And while I completely understand the urgency of being able to address the issue that the previous speaker has raised repeatedly, and I really support that, I'm going to comment. My comment is that you should take it off your consent agenda today, that the job description and the department are not ready to see the light of day just yet. I appreciate your attempts to deal with this issue, and I appreciate the spirit that you're doing it in, with the emphasis on understanding regulations, voluntary compliance, and so on and so forth. But there's just a lot of questions. Question number one is the department itself seems to me unwise, because for one thing, you're doing 5 employees and a reallocation from an existing department. I don't know that the funds are there. The financial analysis doesn't show that the funds are there for this department to deal with the expanded list of complaints in departments other than the sanitary and the building code nuisance. So that's one thing. I have questions about the capacity of the department and the funding for it. Also, more importantly, I think that there's an appearance by establishing this department and not leaving compliance in the individual departments, there's an appearance of setting up a department which is going to be political in nature, which reports to and responds to commissioners' political priorities, not the regulatory stuff. So that bothers me, and I don't know. That's a problem. Compliance is an art; it's not a science, as we all know, and your department is going to be required to understand many regulations in many areas. And this is a complicated and difficult body of knowledge, as your job description acknowledges. And I just feel like, and the other thing I want to say is the emphasis on voluntary. Of course, we want voluntary compliance. We want voluntary, willing compliance. We want people to understand that they're complying with a regulation because there's a reason for that regulation that's for the public benefit. But I don't know that you really want to have voluntary compliance to building codes and nuisance things and sanitary and septic requirements. And I feel like the job description is too heavy on the voluntary and not heavy enough on the knowledge and the the substance of this position. So I'm going to stop there because I think I'm pretty close to my 3 minutes, but I just feel like it's a valiant effort and I appreciate that you're making it. And I want you to deal with this issue of the gun club, but I feel like you're moving too fast. That's all. Thank you.
Perfect timing there, Miss Arnold. You're just ran out of time. Okay, we are still in citizen comment. I'll come back to the room. And as I
my name's Greg Wagner. Live in Goldendale. I'm with Cease. I'd like to ask Mr. Anderson, on August 3rd, when Cypress Creek came here, did you meet with them before the 6 o'clock meeting, the public meeting they held?
I did.
Mr. Christopher, did you meet with the representatives from Cypress Creek on August 3rd?
Yes.
In 2010, when the wind farms met the 1,000 megawatts of electricity generated, you opened the EOZ and made changes to the EOZ. Is that correct, Mr. Sauter?
I believe so.
Yes, you did. So you made the changes. You were willing to open up the EOZ and make changes then. Now that we have the solar issue, you say you won't open up the EOZ. When we could do that, and your past record shows you are able to do that, why not open up the EOZ and put some ordinances in there? You can amend the current EOZ. We don't have to create anything new, and add the ordinances in there for solar. You did it for wind. Why can't you do it for solar?
I'm going to respond, although it's probably ill-advised.
Well, don't say it if you don't want to, but it's a legitimate question.
I would say that the opening of the EOZ at 1,000 megawatts was part of, that was a settlement agreement between the county and folks that the county agreed to look at that. And there was not any significant substantive changes made to the EOZ when it was opened up. Anything that is substantive would require a new SEPA determinations, that, you know, anything that happened that would be anything significant, which, as I think from my perspective, what you're suggesting would be pretty significant, and it would have to go through a full review process.
When I talked to Mucci, the planning director, she told me at that time is when they instituted the 500 to 1,500 foot setback on for solar.
For wind, you mean?
No, she said it's right on the EOZ. It is for solar. 19.38, I believe, is where it's at, or 39. And she told me that prior to that, there wasn't setbacks like that. And that's when the setback occurred. Maybe I'm mistaken, but I believe I talked to her and she told me that. Okay. But she said there were changes made at that time. You said the other day, on May 11th, that you tweaked the EOZ. So I don't know what tweak means to you, but that means change to me.
Right.
So now we're at all along, the board has said we don't know about any plans. There's no plans before you for a solar site on Knight Road. So my question is, how can you write a CUP for something that doesn't exist? You wrote a CUP for any energy facility connecting to the Knight Road substation. How can you write an ordinance resolution like that if you don't know any plans for any solar at Knight Road?
We know rumors of plans.
The man said there are no plans before the county.
There isn't.
So I'd like to know, how can you write a CPU for something that doesn't exist?
I just said based off rumors.
But you shouldn't base a big decision for a CUP off of rumors.
Sure. But there is no decision for a CUP.
He wrote the resolution about any energy facility connecting to the Knight Road substation.
If solar goes in up there and hooks to the Knight Road substation, the Knight Road substation is not part of the EOZ, so any solar hooking to it would have to go through a conditional use permit process.
Well, the conditional use has said that it's supposed to be to protect the citizens. we had the public hearings on solar during the moratorium, many people spoke up to keep the moratorium in place and want ordinances, and that was all ignored. So our public comment during the CUP process, how is it going to be any different?
Your time is,
no,
your
thank
time
you.
is allowed. Okay, we're still in citizen comment. I will go to the folks online. So unmute yourself, get our attention. Sherry is? Okay. Sherry, go ahead. If we could have your name.
Good afternoon, commissioners. This is Sherry. I'm from Houston.
Okay.
Did I just hear correctly that the commissioners are stating that any solar project connecting to the Knight Road substation will require a conditional use permit?
That was what we signed an ordinance months ago, yes.
Okay, do you by chance have that ordinance number? If not, I guess I can ask for it later. And I don't want to use up my 3 minutes with that. So my concern with a conditional use permit, as you know, I've had lots of concerns with them. And on Klickitat County Code 19.60.090, a conditional use permit, notice of time and place of hearing. It states, upon the filing of an application for a conditional use permit or a variance, the Board of Adjustment shall set the time and place for a public hearing in such manner. And a written notice thereof shall be mailed to the property owners in a radius of 300 feet. The written notice shall be mailed no less than 14 days prior to the hearing. Also in the Klickitat County's CUP application, the verbiage states, the characteristics of a proposed conditional use shall be reviewed during the application in the public hearing process to determine whether or not the development is appropriate and compatible in the particular location proposed, and what, if any, conditions are necessary to ensure compatibility. And in the variance application, it says the Board of Adjustment meets the first Monday of each month. And it goes on to say how the deadlines for submission for the application for the Board of Adjustment. So everything I read in county code, county CUP application, other applications, it states that the county is going to put conditional use permits in front of the Board of Adjustment, as well as have a public hearing that couples with that. Am I correct? That is the county procedure, that when a CUP application comes in, it goes to the Board of Adjustment and has a public hearing?
Yes, unless modified by a different, I'm not going to be trapped into saying something. Your question, generally speaking, is yes, unless it goes before a hearings examiner, as is outlined in other county code.
Okay, so then that would mean that the CUPs for the Knight Road solar projects could just be forwarded on to a hearings examiner without public hearing for the citizens, because I'm correct in, and correct me if I'm wrong, Under Canvas never had a public hearing for the citizens. So our voices were not be able to be, they weren't heard there. So does that mean
just a public hearing at the hearings examiner for the Under Canvas project?
That was the Friday meeting.
Right. And there was 2 people that testified on that.
There were over 40 people that testified.
That was not for the CUP. That was for the CPOP.
There were over 40 citizens watched the video that testified in opposition of the conditional use permit at that public hearing. So I'm concerned that the Knight Road solar projects will have the same fate. You will forward them onto a hearings examiner and it will never see the light of day of the Board of Adjustment, nor will it go in front of the public for a hearing to have you hear the voices.
Okay. Your time has elapsed. I did give you some extra because of the interactions that are going on. So thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
I'm back in the room because we did have somebody join us. So we are in open public comment. If there's anybody in the room that wishes to comment, this is your opportunity.
I'm just going to see you later. I'm Dawn.
I know you're Dawn. I know. But I thought you might. That's okay. So I'll go back to the
0088.
0088, you unmuted. Do you wish to make a public comment?
Yes, hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, this is Delmer Eldred, Goldendale, Washington. And, you know, it's getting really frustrating with all the concerns that are coming forward with, especially these two projects, this solar and under canvas. And, you know, it's time to start lifting the clouds. You guys are going to have to put out and prepare yourself for a town hall meeting to come up with the answers and the reasons why you think that this is going to benefit the county, or that the quality of life is going to be any better with these two projects going under. I mean, if you look at just alone, the battery storage facilities that are, I mean, that one in Australia that went off last week, 17 hours, that facility was in operation, 72 hours to put out one battery fire. I mean, these concerns are real. And then you look at just one, I mean, that's just one aspect of safety and environmental concerns on cease. And then you look at under canvas, if you want to see mayhem on a one-lane road and during a wildfire, go to Paradise, California, the video, them people trying to get out on a one-lane road, emergency vehicles trying to get in. I mean, that was almost a disaster, you know, and you guys ignore all the information that the people are providing for you, and they're concerned and they want answers. And it's time for you guys to fess up and have a meeting and address why you think that your decision is better than what the citizens are trying to put forth. And, you know, this whole thing that you guys think that the citizens are your enemies, they're concerned. They're concerned about the future and the quality of the county, which don't appear that the county commissioners could care less about, you know. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Okay, we are still on citizen comment. I got nobody else in the room, so I will continue on the virtual Zoom or phone. Please unmute yourself or get our attention. You wish to make public comment. Let's see.
Oh my gosh, there he is. Just burning a hole in your ear. I can see it coming.
Okay, we are still, so if you change your mind, this is your opportunity. Unmute yourself. It's 0088.
That's, yeah.
Oh, okay, you're still unmuted. So if you want to mute yourself. Not seeing anybody. Although I'm seeing unmuted people, but
I guess I can respond to Mr. Eldred since we don't have anybody else. Mr. Eldred, I've never said that the citizens are our enemies. I don't know where you're getting that from or what leads you to that understanding. Furthermore, when it comes to a CUP, it will not be the commissioners that are going to end up making that decision. So having the town hall to talk about that doesn't make a lot of sense. There's processes that's enshrined in statute that are in place that you will have to go through, or any applicant for a conditional use permit has to go through. And that is the process. It is not appropriate to try to front run a process by stating how we feel about it. How we feel doesn't really matter because everybody has rights. Just as you have the right to comment, to oppose, to appeal, other people have the right to put forth a project. Whether it's to build a house, whether it's to build a solar farm, whether it's to build a glamping community, a gun range, a wedding venue, all these things, people have rights to come forward and try to do what they would like to do with their property. And then it goes through the process in which mitigations, sometimes it's outright denial, but this is how the process works. And many of these things that you brought up, that you have questions on, whether it be battery storage, safety, environmental, those are all the same questions that I have. Those are all the reasons that you have an EIS process so that you can find the answers to those questions. And that is why that process is also enshrined in RCW and state law.
That concludes your...
I'm looking to see what else they opened up here. That concludes that one.
0796.
Yeah, we are still in public comment. 0796, did you wish to make a comment?
Yes, good afternoon, County Commissioners. This is Lisa Evans of White Salmon. I just wanted to let you know that a group called For the Kids Washington has organized a statewide rally for tomorrow. So if you see a lot of parents around the county tomorrow holding up signs, I can't speak for all of them, but I know for myself, a lot of it is just to rally against the governor's mandate that all kids must be masked, and that they are pulling both state and federal money from the school districts that do not comply. So I just wanted you to be aware that if you're driving around tomorrow, I know that a minimum of 6 of our school districts have, or people from those school districts have responded to For the Kids Washington, and will be standing outside at various times tomorrow throughout our county, just asking for support as parents to have the freedom to make the medical choices for their children, to have masks optional, to have the governor back off from controlling our school districts via the use of funds, which I'm not sure he can do legally anyways because of McCleary. But anyway, so I just wanted to give you make you aware that if you see parents around tomorrow that holding up signs, that is their purpose, is to just make their statement for their children and for medical freedom. Thanks.
For clarification, Ms. Evans, was it the governor that made that requirement, or was it the superintendent of public instruction?
Well, essentially both. So via the superintendent of public instruction's email, it was stated that the governor had required them, or required the OSPI, I believe, to withhold all state and local funding. Ultimately the buck stops with the governor. But in the email, it was clear the funds would be withheld.
Lisa, I was listening to, this is Commissioner Christopher, I was listening to the state superintendent's speech this morning, and he said that this was essentially his idea, that he's got to run it past the governor, but he doesn't think there'll be any problems getting it past the governor. So it sounds like he's taking at least credit for developing this whole shenanigans. Just filling you in, a little info there.
Okay, right. Yeah, well, no, I really appreciate it, because obviously every day things change, right? Like what's true right now won't be true 5 minutes from now.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of parents are frustrated that their voices aren't being heard at the state level. And so I just wanted you to be aware that tomorrow, that's essentially the impetus behind the rally. And, for more information, the group is called For the Kids Washington, that has organized this rally.
Thank you.
Thank you. We are still in citizen comment for 2 more minutes. If there is someone that wishes to comment to the board online, please get our attention. Unmute *6 if you're on a phone. seeing anything.
Aaron is still there.
Yeah.
I want that.
Yeah. Look here. We'll be okay. Director Quinn, did you have a brief thing you wish to update the board on?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up just because, you know, I briefed you last week just to let you know that we're seeing a significant increase in case counts. We are continuing to see that again this week. We have had 126 cases in the last 14 days. With just a few more cases, likely we will have more cases this month than any month besides December since the beginning of the pandemic in this county. That's concerning to me for multiple reasons. We have fair this week, which is, you know, that brings a lot of people from a lot of different areas in addition to fairs in areas across the state and in neighboring counties as well. So just kind of concerned about the potential impacts of having people gather on kind of what our case counts are, specifically because school's starting in the next 2 weeks across the county, and just really wanting to make sure that, you know, we do still support that children are going to be able to be in school and be safe in person for as much of this school year as possible. We're still not making very good headway on vaccines. Only 39.5% of our total population is fully vaccinated. So, you know, 60-some% of this county, a little over 60% is vulnerable to COVID right now. We're continuing to see it spread fast. We're seeing it spread easily. There's a lot of concerns. We have 3 people, I just looked real quick, that are in hospitals, not locally. They've been transferred from what I understood, but very young. So we're looking at someone in their 30s, someone in their 40s. These are ages we have not been seeing in the hospital before the last couple of weeks. So it's hitting people that are younger. It's hitting them harder. I say across the board, though, our cases have been arranged. We've had an individual that was under 1. We've had individuals over 90. So we still are seeing a really big range in this county, but definitely seeing younger people being affected locally more heavily. So, you know, just again, recommending masks indoors when people are able to do that. For people that are struggling with wearing masks, try to get vaccinated. If you can't get vaccinated, wear a mask. Just anything you could do to just kind of help support getting through this fall so that we can keep all of the kids in local schools in school in person. And pending your question. Oh, I did have one more thing. I'm sorry. There was a lot of confusion this week with the new recommendations for the vaccine. So the recommendation was for a 3rd dose of vaccine for those individuals who are immunocompromised. And we're talking about people who are actively on cancer treatments, people who have HIV, people who had stem cell transplants. This isn't the booster dose that the rest of us will get. They may make recommendations for that later this week or next week. The recommendation will likely, we believe that it will be that anyone should get a booster dose 8 to 9 months after their last dose. For most people in this county, those booster doses would start probably November, December, because that's the bulk of the doses that we started really pushing here. So we've been giving doses since December, but not a lot were given until we had adequate supplies around the March timeframe. So really going to start seeing for most people in this county that will need a booster dose, that it will be starting around December. So just hopefully that clarifies things for people. Otherwise, pending your questions, that's all I have.
Questions for the health director before we go? Okay, thanks, Erin.
Yep, thank you.
With that, we will move on now to it's time we set aside for public hearings, public meetings, and bid openings. Our first public hearing is to consider the establishment of these maximum speed limits in accordance with statutory provisions of RCW 46.61.415. These will be covering Lake Road, Wind Road, and Oak Ridge Road from various mileposts that we will get into when we get into the specifics.
Wind Road or Wing Road?
Wing Road. Yeah, sorry, I knew that. It says wind.
I know you knew it. I just wanted to say correctly for me.
Apparently I can. I can read.
You can read correctly.
I can read correctly. I know we have no wind road that I'm aware of. So Director Kelsey.
All right, I have an engineer's report prepared, and so typically speed limit changes are initiated by the public. So someone will call us and request we reevaluate a speed limit on any given road. And we go out and we set counters and we collect data for counts, speeds, and traffic composition, whether it's trucks, cars, motorcycles, all those things. And then we prepare a report of those findings, which we have. So basically what we look at is speed limits. When we collect the data, we look at a speed limit that's close to that, what 85% of the traffic are traveling at or below. And then it's set at the nearest 5 mile an hour increment to that data point. There's this thing called the 10 mile an hour pace speed, which is the data will look like a bell curve. And somewhere in there, that within a 10 mile an hour band, most of the cars are traveling. And so you never want to set it outside of that, because then you get this differential with people going either too fast or too slow based on that band when you look at setting a speed limit. So other factors we take into consideration are the characteristics of a roadway. How curvy is it? Hilly, you know, can you have good sight distance? Are there lots of pedestrians or bicyclists? All those things we take a look at, and crash history, what's going on in the road. And those allow us some flexibility within that 10 mile an hour pace in the 85th percentile. So the snapshot of the data collected on Lake Road shows that 85% of the vehicles travel at a speed of around 23.2 miles per hour. So it suggests a speed limit of 25 mile an hour based on the data. And that one's pretty straightforward. And there's a lot of pedestrian and residential activities as well as recreational things going on that road. So the roadway use and characteristics support a reduction from the 35 to the 25 mile an hour. On Wing Road, a snapshot of data collected shows that 85% of the vehicles are traveling around 47 miles per hour. So other factors we consider, there are school bus stops out there. There are people that walk that road. And so let's see, we have one recorded accident in that segment, but it's not related. I think Seth said it was alcohol related. So it doesn't really have to do with the characteristics of the road. So taking all this into consideration, other things occurring in that segment of road, a 40 mile per hour speed limit is appropriate for that segment. The last one is Oak Ridge Road. So we looked at the 85th percentile. It's about 41 miles per hour from Echo Glen to BZ Glenwood Highway. We did hear a lot recently that there are a lot of pedestrians and bicyclists and other users outside of the vehicles that use that road. There were no recorded accidents in the past 5 years. Limiting road characteristics include horizontal curves in the area, but the zoning is pretty much rural residential in characteristic. So looking at all of that, 35 mile based on that is probably the appropriate speed limit and is not above the 10 mile an hour pace or below. The other thing that this road was reconstructed back in the late 90s with a 35 mile an hour speed limit. And what we do when we redesign and rebuild a road, we come back and ordinance the road to the speed limit of the design. That was never done in this case. So it remained an unposted 50, was signed appropriately, the curves were, but it was never ordinanced properly as it should have been. So that is really probably one of the biggest reasons to actually go back and ordinance this road with a 35 mile an hour speed limit. So that concludes my staff report.
I will now open the public meeting to take public testimony both for and against the proposed speed limit changes. Is there anybody? Okay, I'm going to go. Pat, go ahead.
Hi, Pat Arnold, 472 Sunnyside Road, Trout Lake. Appreciate the work the road department has done on this, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Trout Lake Community Council in support of the proposed speed limit revision on Lake Road in Trout Lake. The council has heard from Trout Lake residents, including some Lake Road residents, that there are concerns about safety and dust with the present speed limit. We appreciate that the DNR maintains access to Trout Lake and to the trail there. Local residents use the trail for exercise, bird watching, and education. Some residents, including children, bicycle down Lake Road to get to the Trout Lake Natural Area Preserve. Even though drivers are often exceeding the current speed limit and will no doubt ignore any speed limit, we feel that the reduction will help make drivers aware of the need for safety to drive more slowly. Any reduction in speed will, of course, help with the dust problem. So thank you for moving forward on this change and for the opportunity to testify.
You. I'll now look in the room. Is there anybody that wishes to testify on these? Not. I'll go back to Zoom. Is there anybody else that wishes to provide public testimony on the proposed speed limit changes? Raise your hand, unmute. I don't see anybody. Okay, Sherry Bosque, go ahead, please.
Yes, I am addressing the Oak Ridge Road proposal of the speed limit change. And I had a few questions. Well, I heard that there was no accident data and that I was wondering if there was any new ADT data. And also, was this speed reduction a request from the local road users? And I was wondering if that could be answered, if the speed reduction was from a local road users.
No, in this case, it was not. When we looked into the road, we noticed that this segment had not been ordinanced the way it should have. And so that is from our department to correct this error. And the data that we have is from July 20th of this year. So we just 20th through the 22nd. So yes, we have new data to support the 85th percentile and the speed limit change.
All right. Okay. Thank you for answering that. And so I guess as my testimony, recently I was listening to the under canvas SEPA appeal and the conditional use permit hearing where Oak Ridge Road was discussed at length I guess because of under canvas, they had a road study, and then Public Works also said they did a road study on Oak Ridge Road, and it was found that, nobody really looked at the pedestrians and the other recreational use. Nobody really looked at a lot of the conditions of the road use. And now I'm hearing that the reduction is because of, pedestrians and things like that. So as the county puts that information out there that this road has pedestrians, has recreation, has other uses, and they're suggesting reducing the speed, that I would hope the county would also, in consideration of increasing the traffic on Oak Ridge by 18 times with additional under canvas traffic. And also my testimony is that I am concerned as a citizen after hearing the under canvas hearings, that under canvas has proposed with the county to have taxpayers upgrade Oak Ridge Road at our expense, perhaps maybe sharing it. And also the reduction has me concerned that this reduction in speed is to benefit under canvas in a way. So that is my testimony, that I'm very concerned as a citizen that this reduction is to benefit the under canvas project. And I don't believe that that should be a reason to reduce the speed. And if you don't have any accidents on that road, then I don't know any other reason it would be done but to benefit a project. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Are there any other folks that wish to comment on the proposed reduction of the speeds on any of these three roads? I'm not seeing anybody. Okay. Any questions for staff or anybody else from the board? Yes, go ahead.
I don't have a problem with any of these three, and I fully understand. If Oak Ridge Road was only built to withstand speeds of vehicles going 35 miles an hour, it's only smart and safe to maintain that speed limit. I don't believe that would have anything to do with under canvas. It has to do with the way the road was built and engineered from the get-go, and a mistake that was made in not posting speed limit signs a decade ago. So that's what the Oak Ridge Road speed limit change is to me, has nothing to do with under canvas.
What is the rest of Oak Ridge Road? Because this is the paved portion.
Yeah, the southern piece is that we built, I don't know, it's been 8-10 years ago. We designed that for 25 and it's posted at 25. It's much more curvy than this segment. And so it would have been big impact to the neighborhood. And then the piece from Rattlesnake down to the state highway is 35. Yeah.
What about the gravel section?
I don't know. Do you?
That's the 25.
That's the 25 too. It just continues on. Yeah. Yeah. So it's because it's really same characteristic as the piece we rebuilt 10 years ago, 8-10 years ago.
Okay. Any other questions?
So we do continued rebuilding of our county roads, including Oak Ridge Road.
Yes.
We need it.
Yes.
Okay, if there are no more, any other public comments, I will now close the public hearing to further public testimony, discussion by the board, totally optional. Any comments? If not, okay, I will, well, I already did that. Close to further public testimony twice. It's really closed now. I would say just for myself, as far as discussion, I think it's important to note that there is a, when we look at changing speed limits, we have a prescriptive, we have a process that we go through that this is not based on somebody complained or didn't complain. That may originally start a discussion. Quite often it does. In fact, I get those myself that I refer them on to Public Works. We do a speed study based on the data, and using that, we come up with these speed recommendations are based on data collection and other factors, not other things, as might have been alluded to. So I have no problem supporting the recommendations that Public Works came up with. So if there's nothing else from my seatmates, I would certainly entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the establishment of the maximum speed limits in accordance with statutory provisions for Lake Road, Wing Road, and Oak Ridge Road as presented by staff.
I will second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to adopt the staff recommendation for the reductions of those segments of the road as is in the staff report. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
We will do that. Next, we have a public meeting to consider approval of short plat SPL 2020-14.
Your planner is online.
He is online. Okay, this is in the, and I should be nice and read all the parcel numbers, but I'm not going to. This is in the High Prairie vicinity. The applicants are Robin and Jody Rains, and we will start with a brief staff report. I believe Denise is online. So, Denise, if you want to unmute yourself, I'm looking for you.
She's got it.
Okay, can you
there we go.
Now? Sorry about that. Okay, so you can hear me, right?
Yes, go ahead.
Short plat 2020-14 is a proposal to create two lots from parcel 03132800 0002000. The short plat's located in the High Prairie vicinity. The administrative review of the short plat has been completed. Signatures have been obtained from the Road Health Planning and Treasurer's Office. All conditions attached to preliminary approval have been met. If the board finds that it is in the public's interest to approve the short plat, a motion needs to be made granting final approval of SPL 2020-14 applicants Robin and Jody Raines.
Thank you. Any questions? If not, I'm open.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the short plat number SPL 2020-14 for parcel number 03-13-2800-0002/00 in section 28. Applicants Robin and Jody Raines.
I will second the motion.
Yeah, I have a motion and a second to approve short plat 2020-14. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Motion passes. You did. I appreciate that.
Better. You would have heard Jake does that on the next one.
That will bring us now to another public meeting to consider approval of short plat SPL 2020-21. This is in the Goldendale vicinity. Applicants Judith Blackstrom and Carl and Karen Conroy. And we will start with a brief staff review. Denise, please.
Okay, SBL 2020-21 is a proposal to create 4 lots from parcel 05-15-2500-000900 within the Goldendale vicinity. The admin review of this short plat has been completed. Signatures have been obtained from the Road, Health, and Planning Departments and Treasurer's Office. All conditions of preliminary approval have been met. If the board finds it's in the public's interest to approve the short plat, a motion needs to be made granting final approval of SPL 2020-21 applicants Judith Lackstrom and Carl and Karen Conroy. This is off of Pine Forest Road.
Any questions? Teams? Team. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve short plat SPL 2020-21, parcel number 05-15-2500-0009/00 in section 25 and 30, Township 5, North Range 15 East, the Goldendale vicinity. Applicants Judith Lackstrom and Carl and Karen Conroy.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I
have a motion and a second to approve short plat 2020-21. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. I know. Okay, and now finally, we have a public meeting to consider approval of boundary line adjustment, BLA 2021-03. This is in the Lyle vicinity. The applicant is Claire Higgins. Now we'll start with yet another brief staff report. I'm assuming.
Okay, the BLA 2021-03 is a proposal to adjust the common property line between lots 20 and 21 of the Bridlewood Meadows subdivision off of Meadows Loop in the Lyle vicinity. The admin review of this boundary line adjustment has been completed. Signatures have been obtained from the Road Health Planning and Treasurer's Office. All conditions attached to the preliminary approval have been met. If the board finds it's in the public's interest to approve this boundary line adjustment, a motion will be needed to grant final approval of BLA 2021-03 applicant Claire Higgins.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? No. Okay, I'm gonna entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to approve boundary line adjustment BLA 2021-03, parcel numbers 03-1353-0020/00 and 03-12-0353-0021/00, section 3, township 3 north, range 12 east in the Lyle vicinity with the applicant of Claire Higgins.
Second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to grant final approval on boundary line adjustment. BLA 2021-03. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. 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 Motion passed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Well, I don't know, Denise, is anybody else doing any work over there?
Are you kidding me?
Well, it's been your show today, which I know this is your area that you've baby, and I know these are your babies because I'm other folks are listening now and they're upset now. So I know they're working. Yeah.
You guys have a good day.
You too. I saw it. I didn't read it. You're not supposed to be reading it either. Just because you're supposed to have your mind right here, right now.
I just
he assigned where Lee goes.
There's 2 pages of documents that I didn't read.
Okay.
I did read the one sentence.
Us old timers can't do that. Hi, Rex, Miss Donna. I see you brought McKinson. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Is that the granddaughter?
Yeah. The infamous granddaughter.
I just say I've heard about granddaughter a lot. She's hiding.
Running a little bit ahead. She's out in the hall. I hear some, function going on out there.
I saw Jim over in HR 20 minutes ago.
Oh.
Had to get a title transferred so we can.
That's good. You do a little.
I thought it was public comment title.
1 to 1:30, yeah, and I believe me, there is going to be no other public comment. I'm not granting any special.
If I come back for public comment at any time, I'll even let him sit in my chair.
No, I will. Or
oh, we're jumping right up. Okay.
Emailed this earlier.
Oh yeah. I saw this email earlier and meant to open it.
Maybe I'll walk you through it and kind of make some sense out of that.
Although we've already had this one.
I was going to do it like it's only too much lying in the corner.
Maloney, I saw you coming back on your wife. Which I guess they're not exclusive.
Rocking in the corner.
Hi, Ruby. I know.
I haven't seen you in person.
It seems like.
I don't think I've seen any of you. It's so much. It's been so long.
Lucky you.
Yeah.
I know, right? I have more wrinkles.
I'm just older, grayer, fatter. So.
Yeah, I'm old. So. Actually, no. I think the last time I was out here, I was trying to experiment where I shaved my head. That didn't go well.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
It works well for me, but you got hair.
If you want to call it that, it's, I call it hope.
Yeah.
That's about all.
I lost mine all but a little patch right here, and it was like, no, it's time.
All right,
time to
shave. Sorry, back to work.
Yeah, back to work. Okay, our next order of business is miscellaneous reports and comments. Republic Services Area Director of Operations, Don Tibbetts' quarterly update and presentation, which I'm waiting for the 2 former commissioners, Rex Johnston and Jim Sizemore. So welcome, Republic folks.
Thank you. My glass case is not the presentation.
Oh, I was like,
I thought it was magic.
Well, always watch his other hand.
Yeah, right. Great to see everybody again, and nice to be able to do these in person. Before we get going on the report, I'd like to introduce Josh Shaw. Josh is our new general manager for Roosevelt and Washington Post Collection Waste by Rail Network. Josh has, how long have you been with the company?
Been with the company 5 years. Started my career in Dallas-Fort Worth area. Well, started my Republic career Dallas-Fort Worth area, and then moved up here last year as the area post collections manager. Down the hall from Don Tibbetts at the area office in Redmond. So been in the role now. It's my 4th week. So.
And how about?
And you're still here, so that's.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Well, the day's not over.
Yeah, I know. It's early yet.
Yeah. How about you give them up to speed on like your overall like waste experience?
Absolutely. Background? Yeah. So graduated college in 2008. Probably the worst time to graduate college. You know, with the market crash and everything. So. Ended up in the waste business on accident, working for Waste Connections in New Mexico.
That's unfortunate.
It was good experience.
We'll move on.
Good experience. You know, 13 years in the industry, 8 with Waste Connections, 5 with Republic, mostly all on the post collection side, transfer stations, landfills, recycling centers. But I did have a 2-year stint in Austin, Texas, where I was the operations manager over a hauling company. So about 45 trucks. It's in the blood. I love it. This is what I'll be doing, you know, as far as I can see. So, you know, it's a pleasure to meet you guys, and I'm looking forward to working with you.
Okay, I think that's good. The first thing I would tell you is don't believe half of what he told you about us, and even less than what he told you about.
Now you can believe it about me. They're really nice.
Okay, well, why don't we dive into the report real quick?
Now for serious.
Okay, so this is going to be volume through May. June actually was a very good month as well, once we have, and July. But I just want to kind of focus on the first part of the year. So as you can see from 21 verse 20, we're up about 32,000 tons year over year, which is approximately 18.5%. Obviously 2020, not a stellar year as far as volume. I think we all understand why. So I try to base everything really on 2019 volumes. It's a much better baseline. So when we look at 2019, we are trending to end slightly favorable to 2019. 2019 was 2.46 million tons, and I think we're going to hit right at 2.5 million. If that is the case, that will be another record year for Roosevelt, so we're excited about that. You can see the individual customers that are really attributing the main one, or contributing, excuse me, is Snohomish County. When we look at 2019 volume compared to 21 volume, it's up about 12%. That's primarily due to some flow control efforts that Snohomish County has put in place regarding some C&D recyclers in that county. We are starting to see a little bit of tonnage leak out of that system. We believe it's going to Yakima. There's a C&D landfill over there that they might be putting some volume in there that they're not permitted for. So we're trying to get our arms wrapped around that and make sure that the proper regulators are up to speed on that, because it's an unlined C&D landfill, but we think there's some MSW sneaking in there. But we don't really see that being a huge issue. You'll notice Spokane MSW is up. That's in addition to the ash. That's just because they are continuing to push that system as far as the incinerator. It's completely maxed out, so they're having to do more and more what we call bypass, which is just shipping us standard MSW pre-incineration, which we're good with. In fact, we're in discussions with Spokane right now to see how we can further service them, possibly through an extension of a contract or something in those lines. But as more information becomes available, we'll get you guys up to speed on that. So that's obviously one of our key partners that we want to make sure we maintain. Thurston County, you know, it's definitely up. When we look at 2020 versus 2019, we anticipate the trend will actually finish probably 10 to 12% favorable when compared to 2019. Obviously, I believe everybody is aware that we were the successful company On the RFP that was put out, which is great, we're in current contract negotiations with them. They're going very well. We don't see any issues whatsoever with finalizing those and getting that wrapped up rather quickly. Steve Gilmore is leading that negotiation. He's doing a great job. I know he's in the room, so I don't want to say too much about him. Our Canadian volume is finally starting to pick back up. So Canada really locked down during COVID, specifically British Columbia. We're now starting to see that volume turn on again. Metro Vancouver has reached out to us 2 months in a row now, requesting to ship us additional volume than what they have previously. So I believe in August, they're going to be shipping roughly, I'm going to say 6,000 metric tons. So let's just call it 6,600 to 7,000 short tons. And they are likely going to be going out to RFP later this year or early next year. We believe that's going to be for a sizable volume. Now they're keeping it very close to their chest right now. However, I'm going to be very surprised if it's anything less than 100 to 150,000 tons. I think it could be very far north of that. So previously, when they went out to RFP, they awarded the contingency disposal contract to ourselves and Waste Management. They split that volume. Waste Management was not able to provide them with the amount of service that they actually needed. So they terminated that contract with Waste Management last year, and they've only been using us. Now, unfortunately, COVID hit, and so we didn't really get to see the full benefit of that. However, it puts us in a very good position when this new RFP comes out. Now, things have changed in that market considerably because Belcorp has opened up another landfill at Cache Creek. This is a very old topic. I know Dave's up to speed on it, and I don't want to spend a lot of time in this forum getting everybody up to speed on really like the history of Cache Creek and Belcorp and West Waste Tech. However, it's a competing landfill. It's going to be challenging to compete against them very aggressively because they can take it over the road. It's about a 2.5 to 3 hour drive to Cache Creek. It's just north of Kamloops, which probably nobody knows where that's at. A couple hours north of Abbotsford. So if they decide to get very aggressive, it's going to be tough. But we are hopeful that Metro recalls the relationship they had with Belcorp, which it did not end well. And we're going to do everything we can there to make sure we get that volume again. Once we actually know what that volume is going to be, then we'll meet with all of you and get you up to speed on it. So
would you forecast knowing those things?
So like I said, I think later this year, maybe early next year. So our lobbyist in the BC market right now is getting us as much information as she can. Like I said, they're keeping it pretty close to their chest, but she believes, given everything that's still going on up there, probably Q1 before it really happens.
How long is the contingency agreement? How long is that valid?
Yeah, so that actually, they have one more extension that they can utilize. Obviously, we've been trying to
convince them.
Yes, convince them to continue doing that,
but only
as well as going out with a longer, much more sizable RFP. I really wanted them to go out to RFP prior to Cache Creek reopening, but obviously they're not as dumb as I had hoped to do. But that was after they were being recorded. But anyway, very promising there. A couple new markets that we're starting to explore that will be of interest to you. I know I'm going to get some looks from individuals in the room, but we are starting to explore Hawaii again. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I heard rumor of that.
Yeah, actually, it's a very sizable opportunity. It's exciting. You know, when we attempted to do that in 2010, 2009, 2010, it was an absolute nightmare. But that was due to an individual that doesn't work for us and didn't work for us at the time. But a lot of history there. If you're ever up late at night and you want to Google Hawaii waste systems in Ravenko, feel free to do that. You'll learn some stuff there. However, since we already containerize and barge waste down from Alaska, it would be a very similar situation. We would land the barges in Seattle and put it on the train. So that's different than 2009, right. 2010, where they're going to try to bring them up.
Significantly different.
Exactly. For a lot of reasons, I have zero interest in trying to bring those open water barges up to Columbia. The pushback would be significant from several groups. So landing them in Seattle and just adding to our train schedule is going to be ideal. Still in the infancy stages, but I would say over the course of the next year, it's a market we're going to be pushing very hard to develop.
Is Seattle the only port that's available for something like that? Or
no, we could certainly go into Tacoma. We could go into, I try to keep everything out of Portland, longshoreman issues.
Right.
But we could go into California ports, but our rail rates from the California ports are not very attractive.
But nothing in Cathlamet or Longview or anything like that.
We do have a rail rate from Longview. So that is something that we could explore. The Burlington Northern typically is hesitant to service out of Longview because Longview is a shared yard between Union Pacific and the Burlington Northern. They actually just take turns operating it. 1 year the BN will operate it, the next year the UP operates it. It's a nightmare.
Sounds efficient.
Yeah, and if you've ever worked with the railroads, it's like working with the federal government. And that's what the railroads are basically. So anyway, we could do Longview, but I don't think it would be very ideal. Seattle's the best one. And the other reason is, so we would be working with Alaska Marine Lines. So Alaska Marine Lines purchased North Shore Tug and Barge in 2016. And so they currently already serve the islands. One of the reasons this opportunity is very appealing is because it makes sense if you think about it. Like, we ship a lot of things out to the islands, but not a whole lot comes back. So all these shipping containers coming back are empty. And so if we can actually start utilizing those shipping containers by using a bladder system, so then the bladder would tip out with the waste, and then the shipping containers could be reused. They wouldn't have to deadhead. And so any revenue that they can get on a return ship or return float is very beneficial for them. So that one's exciting. The one thing I'd kind of point out.
What kind of volumes does your crystal ball say?
Yeah, so Steve, can you remind me of what the Hawaii?
Yeah, so we're looking at 250,000 tons from 2 of the counties there between Kauai and the other one.
Is it Maui?
Maui, yeah. So they have landfills that are going to be closing within the next 7 years. So they're either having to build new sites or find a solution to either ship it or find a site on the island to deal with it. And there are currently some regulations that prohibit shipping from within the islands. So waste cannot be shipped from one island to the other. Right. So they would have to go through some pretty dramatic changes within how their current system works to find solutions on another island.
Do any of the islands ship to the mainland currently?
They have their own. Yeah, each island has their own solid waste system, but to Steve's point, a lot of them are starting to near the collective effects, right? They're almost full, yeah. And everything on the islands are very expensive. Construction of a landfill is extremely expensive, but there's a massive leachate issue. So
I don't see that happening.
Yeah, exactly.
They're going to truck it somewhere.
Exactly. That's where I really think that it's a significant opportunity for us. I'm assuming that you're either starting or in your budget process already.
Just starting.
Okay.
There it is, showing the book.
All right, fantastic. Okay, so looking at my crystal ball, like I said, I think we're going to finish this year about 2.5 million tons. Fingers crossed, this new strain, variant, whatever, doesn't play havoc with the economy. I would see the volume in 2022 probably growing by about 10%. So, we're talking 2.5 to 2.75 as far as tons. Locking up Thurston.
I was just waiting if I heard Jen fall up her. Are you on? Right here. The finance director.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, and of course, I say that with the caveat of this new variant, as long as the economy doesn't get locked down or shut down again. And the majority of that volume that I'm talking about, I believe, will be coming from Canada for the growth, which is great. So we are moving forward with developing our new rail yard in Sumas. So we're in the process of finalizing the purchase and sale agreement. That will allow us to generate unit trains out of Sumas, which is right next to Abbotsford. And so that will allow us to increase our tonnage from that yard from about 285,000, let's call it 300,000 tons, to about 875,000 tons just from that yard alone.
So clarification, you're thinking next year might be at 10%,
yeah,
but that's not through existing contracts. That would be new contract.
That's actually through organic growth of existing.
Oh,
yeah. It's just right now we're a bit of a bottleneck in the Canadian market. There's more demand than what we can supply because of the way our rail system works up in that part of the country. So by building this new intermodal, it allows us to kind of like unkink the hose, and we'll be able to send unit trains. So then we can actually start taking more volume, because right now, especially with the private transfer stations up there, we are turning customers away every day.
Wow.
Yeah, which is not a place I like to be.
Does there continue to be challenges with the exchange rate as far as?
Not to the extent that it was in 2014,
okay.
2015, especially right now with oil prices being, fairly high. The Canadian economy basically is, it mirrors oil prices. So the Canadian dollar is strong when oil prices are good, and it gets very weak. That's what happened in 2014. When oil prices tanked to $30, $40 from 115 to 125. It used to be a 1-to-1 ratio, roughly, the U.S. compared to the Canadian dollar, and now it is currently, I haven't checked for a couple of weeks, but I'm guessing it's probably about 85 to 1. In 2014, we were really struggling with that because it was closer to like 69, 70 to 1. That's where we really had to get very creative in order to keep that volume. Being creative, meaning
creative.
Yeah.
Hurting my book.
Hurting my book.
Yeah. Hurting our book.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. So I think we're going to have a really good 2021, 2022. We see strong growth. We do have some current concerns on the landfill right now. I don't know what the infection rates are doing in Klickitat County as a whole, but we are experiencing a spike. So Josh and I were talking about it on the way out here, what we're going to do to move some volume, because he's getting a pretty big backlog now.
Just from staff. I mean, just lack of staff.
Yeah, he's down over 11 drivers right now. So so that hurts big time. This time of year we should be doing 9,500 to 10,000 tons per day. Yesterday they did 5,300. Right. So the waste is there. It's not like it's escaping. It's just piled up in the intermodal.
We have 126 positives in the last 14 days. So you have 11 of them there.
Yeah. 10%. That's about right. Yeah. You have 11 just drivers, right?
11 drivers.
Yeah. So we also have individuals. There's other employees at the intermodal, the landfill, but those are just drivers at 11. So yeah, we are going to be moving forward with the mask policy again at Roosevelt to try to get it under control. Some other, social distancing efforts, everything we can. Obviously, we're encouraging everybody to get vaccinated. We're not requiring it, but we're strongly encouraging. Aside from that, yeah. Questions, concerns?
I'm good. Good presentation, covered everything.
Thanks. The next one I will probably let Josh do on his own. He's a big boy, so he can rattle off the numbers just as well as I can. Not that I don't enjoy coming out and seeing all of you. It is always a pleasure. Now we do have a presentation that I believe Steve is going to run. Yes. Okay. So obviously with Rex and Jim retiring, we wanted to do something very nice, because obviously it's quite a partnership that we had for a number of years, public-private partnership. So really, we wanted to recognize that. We're going to have to step outside for the actual presentation. We'd like to give you some gifts that we're not allowed to bring into a courtroom. Yeah.
That is.
and Rex, I have to say, I'm very sorry. It is not happening. Unfortunately.
You mean I drove up all the way up here?
I know.
I bought the ice and the glasses.
I drink it straight.
There you go. Yeah, you don't want the water path. There is a bar in Seattle that does plates at Pappy. And for a little taster, you get 3 of the different years or ages. I think it was like $250.
So when should I meet you up there?
Anytime. You just let me know and I will be happy to buy you one of those flights. I will say that for $250, I was disappointed.
Get your plane rubbed up.
So actually, before we step outside, then, if any other questions as far as landfill related volume? First, welcome to the family.
Thank you.
We have a special relationship, I will say.
I would agree with that.
I think it's worked really well for us as far as the public-private partnership over the last 3 decades. I can only speak from direct experience from the last 15 years, but yeah, that's a decade and a half.
Yeah.
But it does work really well, and I do look forward to interacting with you and getting to know each other. And anyway, we always understand, we're the host county. It's not our landfill. It's not. We have to remind people of that sometimes. But we do, we understand our role, and we also understand there's sometimes things that we can do that maybe you can't do. And so that's, I just want to make sure you understand that if there's ways we can help, don't hesitate to reach out to us.
Okay, so, absolutely appreciate that. Yeah, I would say the relationship has been the best since 2013, which is when I came on board. So prior to that,
it was just a smoldering ruin before.
Even better in the last 4.
Yeah. No, it's been strong through several administrations and previous
GMs, and
previous GMs.
As often as much as I want to get away from Roosevelt, I don't think I will ever be able to get away from Roosevelt.
It's like you've announced we've expected not to really see you for a while. And then you're like you just keep coming back.
Yeah, I'm basically like a gold sword.
I think of it more of like like Survivor, where it's outlast, outwit, out.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
He's the last person.
Last person voted out of the landfill.
Yeah, voted out of the landfill has spoken.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm waiting for it to speak so I can move on. But no,
all right.
I've always really enjoyed working with the board, and Josh is going to do a great job. I have all the confidence in the world with him, and of course, I'm still around.
Right. So. Anything else before? Because I think what I'm going to do is recess for a few minutes, and we'll step outside.
I was thinking on the front steps of the building. That way.
The main front
Yeah.
steps.
Yeah.
Okay. Or the front steps, I guess.
Steps.
Where things are all tore apart right now.
Yeah,
So it's like,
there's
have we looked if there is any steps out there?
There are.
Okay, those are brand new. Yeah, okay. All right. Well, we are going to recess that. I'm going to say for 10 minutes. So, folks, we will be back.
I have to do something.
I think we've actually got.
They did. I sent it.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
She gave me an extra one, so I figured.
Does everybody know the good news?
Yeah, no, they were just it's crystal ball stuff, so it's not. But they were.
You did sound like.
Oh, was that the landfill?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, landfill. There, we should budget for about 10% more for 2022. So
very timely. They
can
always
proceed
if that's the news.
Yeah.
So thank you, commissioners, for a few minutes this afternoon. Thank you, Lee, for working us in the schedule. What we wanted to go through is, as you're aware on your board calendars, Lee has blocked out September 9th, 16th, 23rd, and 30th, and then the 4 Thursdays in October and November 4th. So historically, looking back at least 5 years, the county has spent about 9 hours receiving budget presentations spread over 3 or 4 half days. So
since we know we're starting a little early this year and we've blocked out significantly more time, we kind of want to go over our concept for what we're thinking for scheduling to make sure we're on the same page as the commissioners. So just doubling the time that folks have had. So times in the past have been 10 minutes, 15, 20, 30, and then Public Works was 60 or 90, depending on their fund. Just doubling those and making some allowances for departments that were giving 2 department updates. It becomes about 20 hours of presentations. Looking at starting a little later in the morning, we've kind of commissioners starting at 9, getting over at 4:30, having a lunch break and some breaks in the middle of the days to kind of slow the pace down, have a little more casual conversation and not feel rushed. Take about 5 Thursdays to go through the first presentation of all departments, 4.5 to 5 days. And that would still leave all of October, well, that would leave the 14th and 21st of October, 28th, and then 4th of November for a second round or further discussions on additional revenues, additional expenses, follow-up discussions with departments, the follow-up questions to maybe their presentations. Commissioner Christopher is gone on the 14th of October. We didn't know if you still wanted to have a budget meeting that day or not.
That's what I was just playing with sticky notes for. Because you have, sorry, I will just back completely up. You have union negotiations scheduled for September 15th, and there's a little block. I have a dentist appointment. You have union negotiations scheduled for September 22nd, and there's a little block that's that Goldendale Reds presentation that I really should be at. So I wanted to give you my times that I kind of have these Wednesdays kind of set off. And then on that October date of the 14th, if we need that, I'll be here. Same deal, I think, you know, I took that because my wife took that, but it's budget, it's union negotiation, I'll be here.
Yeah, you also have left that morning at 9.
That's one more reason.
For those Wednesdays, Commissioner, we may be able to, for those days, move some of the negotiations.
Well, that's what I figured. If I'm doing something, we know in the morning and still go to Goldendale Reds. That's why I was going to give you all my dates now. Okay. So whenever you talk to them, you knew exactly what my schedule was.
Okay, so I guess the first thing, let's start with, do we think, you know, as far as the time, which I support as far as the, you know, putting more time than we have traditionally done, you know, particularly this year, because I think it's pretty abbreviated in the past. There has not been really any time for any interaction between the board and the presenter for the most part, because there's just not any time. And we always think we're going to come back to it, and then we don't. And we generally end up making decisions without a whole lot of interaction with the departments. And so I think it's a good idea. I think I support it as far as the doubling the time, slow it down. There'll be lots of opportunity then for give and take. So I'll make the schedule work, whatever works for folks.
I agree. When I was sitting back there, I always thought it was kind of tight.
Yeah. Jake, are you okay with that?
I think it's going to be the year we need to do it.
Yeah. And then Jen and I'll have an overlaid calendar that we'll share with you for critical dates. You know, we'll overlay when the tax levies have to be approved.
Yeah, that would be good, because we've had it in the past where it's in our calendar, but I'm a real visual person. It really helps me if it's actually on where I can a calendar, not text. This goes back to my taking directions from my wife, and she wants to read me directions, and I want to see a map, and that's okay. So I want to see. I want a map. I want them on a or something.
One that goes in here.
Maybe it's whatever works, so that we have, because a lot of times we don't realize that those dates are coming up, and then we get up to them and then we're like, oh God, the levy's got to get in. We got to get these things done, because you could take all those that are laid out. Like, we have no choice over those things, and then back them up to when we think, oh, then we better be getting close to being done with this part of it by now, or we're not going to make, and the noticing requirements, the things that we have to do as far as get the public notices out, because we don't want to run into, oh, whoops.
Yeah. I did ask Lee today to add November 4th because we didn't have that on their calendars. There is 2 in December that we have on our calendar that we haven't blocked out on yours. You know, I mean, hopefully we're not going to be talking about the budget December 9th or 16th even.
Well, we have in the past, right. But I don't want to.
Not the goal. Plus, we're also going to overlay if there's any new revenue that's to be considered. Are there certain dates that we'd have to have a resolution? Right. You know, so we'll try and have all of those dates mapped out in advance so we don't miss an opportunity or miss an RCW requirement. And then with the day starting a little later and ending at 4:30, I mean, you know, if things go along, things go short, you'll have a lot of flexibility in a given day anyway. But and in the past, the departments were given, I think every year for a long time, they could put down their 3 options of dates and times. I don't think we're going to be able to accommodate that, trying to get all this in and get everybody plugged in. So we're probably going to ask departments, 1, to block all these dates out. Hopefully they've already done it if they've been listening. And then we'll ask them what dates, AM, PM, they are not available. So here's the dates, you know, at least the first 5 for the presentations, and, you know, tell us when you can't be there and we'll work around that. But I think the departments are going to have to be a little more flexible around the commissioner's schedule this year than.
Well, and I think it would be wise to have an order in how we accomplish things and maybe not start with the big guys.
Typically Public Works and the sheriff's are towards the end of it. I kind of looked to see if there was some order, and there is a little bit, but it can change. And I think a lot of it was driven, for instance, the judges sometimes have court dates built in and they can't, you know, they can't be in the morning on a certain day or the afternoon.
Those I can understand.
But once we get that back from them, the blackout period, so to speak, because court dates or vacations and then I think we should be prepared realistically that COVID may impact some of this, and departments may have to make presentations via Zoom or phone. I think it's better if we're in person, but I think having that planned, whether you record it or not, I know it's a discussion to be had or has been had, but having the option for Zoom or phone presentations if somebody's quarantined or ill, or at that point in time, you know, there's a limit on the number of people in the building, which there's no word of coming from the governor yet, but just building in the possibilities so we're not having to make adjustments at the last minute. Is there any issue with Zooming these meetings, or at least have their?
I don't see. Can we do it now? I don't. I mean,
I think last year that's how we did the presentation.
You never know. One of us might need to be somewhere else at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's nice to have the option. I mean, that's, you know, we had folks that did it last year that way.
Yeah, last year was call-in. It wasn't video, but yeah, I think for the sake of transparency, you kind of have to, otherwise you're hiding something.
Anything else? No. Okay, so we'll start putting this together, and Jen's you haven't given the book yet, or have you?
They were left in their offices.
So Jen's put together, I think, a very useful tool, and we'll add to it as we go with the calendar, so we can give you critical dates and things like that. So any questions or concerns you might have, or then any final comments?
Time to dig in. We
almost wrote Merry Christmas on them.
Yeah, and Merry Christmas.
Yeah, we do have Christmas and Thanksgiving and this time frame too. So.
Yeah.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you both.
Okay, that brings us to consent agenda. We did get some testimony on the one item to do the code compliance, but I don't have the same level of concern, I guess.
I have some concern
about the job description. You know,
no, not the job description, but whether the law, the ordinance, the fines, the fees, all that is up to snuff and adequate. But if the request from the prosecutor and the feeling of the board is to get something going, and we can always be work in progress as it's going, I'm fine with that. Yeah. As long as we don't hire somebody to just sit there and wait for us to get it done.
Well, I think Pat brought up some good points about, you know, the required and necessary knowledge, and what we put in there is that we're going to be spending time and effort and money getting this person trained to snuff and trained. And I'd love to put them in these departments to learn what they do to make their job easier and create the connections.
I didn't even think of where she said that there could be political.
Yeah.
I've never thought of that because I don't personally, I don't know you gentlemen too much, but I think I know you well enough to know that that would never happen. I know myself enough that that would never happen, but I can understand. I can understand that angst from the public to think that maybe there would be, we're not going to, enforce it on this person because we like him and not on this person. I understand where that thought is coming from. I don't think it's needed, but.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I hadn't really thought about it that way, but I mean, I guess if it's in a department, it's the same concern is, believe me, if the board can apply pressure to the director
And same deal, if we put it in the sheriff's department, then you still got to worry, do they enforce the gun range?
Right.
There could still be political there too. So there's no good answer. But I don't share that concern as long as I think that's one of the reasons I wanted oversight.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to approve the consent agenda with all 10 items.
I would second that motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda with all 10 items. Further discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. 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 Motion passed.
Ready for payment?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion that we pay estimate number 16 to Kirby Nagelhout Construction Company in the amount of $798,264.84, which excludes retainage in the amount of $39,208.97 and includes sales tax for the total payment of $818,925.73 for the County Services Building Project contract number C03120.
I will second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve pay estimate number 16 to Kerbal Nagelhout Construction Company. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve pay estimate number 2 to Great Works LLC in the amount of $171,332.50, excluding $8,566.63 retainage, for a total pay amount of $162,765.87 for the Old Mountain Road project.
Second the motion.
Okay, motion is second on pay estimate number 2 to Great Works LLC for the Old Mountain Road project. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve pay estimate number 4 to Lee Contractors LLC in the amount of $78,811.70, which includes retainage in the amount of $3,940.59 and sales tax for the total payment of $80,781.99 for the Klickitat County Courthouse Entrance Improvement Project C06821.
I will second that motion as well.
You have a motion and a second for pay estimate number 4 to Lee Contractors LLC for the Courthouse Entrance Improvement Project. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Bills?
Bills or other bills? Those were bills.
Like there wasn't enough.
Yeah.
Now
Chairman, everything else.
I make a motion that we accept the accounts payable warrants in the amount of $1,359,409.64 and the payroll benefit warrants in the amount of $0 for the date ending August 16th, 2021.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Pay the bills. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion passed. Bills are paid.
They should have come back to the one and start.
Okay, next I guess we will take Treasurer Greg Gallagher, office update and finance committee report.
Good afternoon. Pretty short. I think most of it's been covered earlier, but I will just go back through. So we had our finance committee meeting on the 13th.
Riveting.
What's that?
I said it was riveting.
It was pretty, yeah, that's why I say I don't think this is going to be that long. We did talk about the Rescue America.
Although we still managed to go over by 45 minutes.
We did, yes. We did talk about the Rescue America quite a bit, and Jen is working on doing some of the webinars and some other training on the lost revenue calculator. She reported that she's learning on what qualifies, what doesn't, so on and so forth. So, and we all agreed that she would be doing a great job. So she's kind of staying up on that, and as to what's coming out from all of the rule makers on that particular issue. The budgeting was another hot topic, most of which was already just covered just shortly here ago by Rob and Jen. So there really wasn't much. Brenda did report that she finished up the Google Sheet for the budgeting process.
Has she recovered?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think so. As of yesterday, yeah. And we talked about the state audit. Brenda is continuing to work with the state auditors, as we all are in the finance side. So she says it's moving along. It's taking just a little bit longer as we're doing it remotely and so on and so forth. So that is, that's still progressing along. And then the next meeting is the 27th. So there really wasn't a lot of hot topics or reports or anything. It was fairly benign. We talked about the budget and the state audit and the funds. So any questions on the finance committee? Is there anything that I missed that you?
No, other than I would maybe, and I don't want to speak for Jen too, because I know she's still doing the, she's behind the post. So she oh, really? Yeah. As far as on the lost revenue calculations, that hopefully we'll have some number that we feel comfortable with, which looks like we were pleasantly surprised that we'll be able, because again, at least I think the finance committee's recommendation is going to be to as much of that Rescue America dollars that we can charge against that lost revenue, because those have basically no strings on them.
Right. And
that's
it sounded like at that time we would have a large portion of that it would be, of one chunk.
Any idea how much?
Well, that's why I didn't want to. When she was behind the post, I was going to speculate.
So I wasn't going to. That's not my water to carry.
Speculation or a rumor or an idea or something on that for a while now.
I'm still waiting to hear from Teresa and Katrina on.
She's going to make me wait.
Yeah.
Is she going to make me wait?
Somewhere between a lot and wow.
Yeah. I would say that I'm comfortable saying that the first tranche should be able to.
Yeah. So that's 2.2 million or 3, whatever it is.
It looked like our revenue, our growth rate was like 5.1% average. So we were able to use the 5.1%. Right. Those numbers I was looking at are actually.
So we thought that was great news.
That was great.
Because that way we're not going after a bunch of little pieces. We have one big chunk in that.
And it's just general purpose money.
Do you want to report any more on that? And then as far as the treasurer's office, We are into vacation month for us. It seems like we have one or two people.
Take a whole month off?
No, we don't all,
Wow.
but we scatter it out. So it's like, oh, who's here today? So we have had.
Is that like birthday month? Where it's like, oh, this is my birthday month.
It could be. I think it's just because everybody thinks it's going to be nice and sunny. So they want to go on vacation before school starts.
Fair month.
Yeah. So which doesn't make it nice for fair month though, because then it's like, oh,
Somebody's
okay,
gotta
we gotta kind of, people have to be in the office. We are working on the fair. That's been a big project for us since the middle of July, just because we are the treasurer for the fair. So the money comes through here. So we are working with them. We are working on the state audit and we are working on budgets. There's, REITs are always a main thing, and I have not done the count recently to see where we're at, but they continue to be very high, and property transactions continue to be up there. And it's across the board. It's not just here. Some other treasurers we were visiting, and everybody's in the same boat, kind of astonished that it's continuing to be like that, but it's high. So those were kind of some of the big hitters. So is there any questions?
No. Any questions, Rebecca?
Cross-examining.
Yeah. Get it.
So all we really have.
Okay.
Not
Sir?
much. Not much. Thank you. Yes, we will.
Okay, next up, prosecuting attorney David Cannell. Some updates which may be qualified for executive session.
I forwarded the decision that we received today from the Heritage Examiner on our canvas issues. The NDNS issued by the responsible official was upheld, and then the permit is going forward with about 2 pages of conditions as outlined in the documents there. So they have a statutory time frame, and I remember correctly, 21 days from the issuance to file a LUPA appeal in the spirit of court, and we'll see if that happens, in which we anticipate probably will, and go from there.
Okay. What were your thoughts when you read? It seemed like the conditions were rational, logical.
Yeah, it seems like it.
So what will be, if there is a appeal filed, what will the county's responsibility and role be for that?
To defend the
Okay.
And the remaining matters are for exec.
Okay.
Could I please ask that
Yes.
you finish any issues? That way we can close down. Do not expect to come back in after this.
Okay. Any other kind of pending issues or anything, open section stuff before we go?
I defer to the commissioner until he's finished.
No, just the fleet management stuff I wanted to talk about, but if we're scheduling that time later, we'll deal with that later.
I did hear back from the Glenwood school, and schools require masks.
Okay.
So I've got everything that
We've got some masks to take
that we can take with us.
I have everything, about 2 boxes.
Well, that,
yeah. How many masks are in a box?
I don't know.
Seems like about 50, maybe more than that.
Well, how many did we have last time? Was about 100 people show up?
Yeah. I'd say less the last time. It's like it, there was the peak and it's been less and less each time.
I'll get more.
Is the school
just borrow some.
Who's going to be the mask? It isn't going to be me.
Well, it's going to be it's the school's facility. I don't know.
Our job too.
Yeah, as far as if it's a requirement of using the facility, then we as our
users of the
facility, it's on us, who is ever running the meeting, yay, to try to enforce that, or at least, but
for board, I know it's board opinion. Can you guys give me an update on the discussion that was had this morning? I had to hop off and attend that funeral. So
which discussion?
On how we're going to run this evening.
He's like, go ahead.
Just moving my stomach out of the way for you.
So it was brought up by the undersheriff that we should expect a group of non-track D people to show up and want to partake in this town hall meeting, of which I said that we're not allowing testimony for anything that isn't Glenwood related. And just kind of got a smile. I don't think this is solar people. I think this is anti-vaccine, anti-mask, that whole thing. So I would like the meeting to have a set time limit of whatever that is, 1 hour, so that if we have a bunch of protests going on that we can't rein in, they're only eating into the time of the citizens in the neighborhood, and the neighborhood citizens aren't going to like them eating into their time. Otherwise, we're going to be the bad guys sitting there getting protested on the whole time and or having to get up and leave the meeting because it's a disorganized chaos fest.
Well, requiring masks at the door will sure make that interesting quick.
Yeah, well, what are you going to do if people refuse?
Right. That's kind of my point. Because you know what's going to happen. Guarantee it. And I don't think you're going to get law enforcement support.
Advice?
You
yeah, I don't.
Because how are you going to enforce it? You're either going to have people disrespect the rules of the school in the meeting and proceed, or I mean, the idea that you're going to have voluntary 100% compliance is nonsensical. I mean, I hope to be proved.
So are we not going to have a meeting now until this is all over? Because we're always going to have.
But you're a guest at someone else's facility that's imposed rules.
Right.
So if the county goes there and just disregards the rules.
No, I'm not suggesting that. I will do my best to make sure that there is compliance. But I don't. What am I going to do
if you don't have the enforcement?
I can't enforce. I had the same issue when we had the public hearing here, and we had, we were still under the mandate that we had to do it, and and for the most part, we did not have any issue. We did have one individual that refused, which I made them wait out, and then they came in and gave their testimony, and then they left. And so, I mean, I could try to do that, or I will do that, I guess. And if we can't, we're going to end up with, I'm trying to go and have a meeting about the thing I want to talk about, and I'm going to end up having a brawl about something that's completely unrelated to it.
That's my worry.
That's my worry too. And I don't
think the governor made an exception for masks for when you are public speaking. So I would like to make it so whoever is speaking and addressing the board can at least pull down their mask to speak, so I can actually understand what they're saying through their mask, and then put their mask back up. I believe there is a legal exception for that, and it sure would help me understand what people are saying, because I even have trouble with the prosecutor over there sometimes. I don't know if it's my bad ears or.
What you're saying is there's no good options.
No. So I'm good however we want to do it.
Having a meeting at a facility that you control and being a guest at another facility, right, and disregarding the rules.
Right. Or inviting people that are going to disinvite. Right?
It's too bad the fair's going on, because you could do it at the fairgrounds. You could have the stadium for them to sit in.
Well, half of Glenwood will be at the fair.
The idea was to get some feedback on.
Right.
And I don't know that we're going to get that feedback anyway.
That doesn't sound like that's going to happen.
Well, we don't actually know that. We're speculating.
Sure.
We're speculating based on basically I actually have not heard from it, not that I would necessarily, that there's going to be some, bunch of protesters and people, other than the comment of the undersheriff saying that he has been contacted, which I'm not discounting at all. That would be, I would be surprised if there
wasn't. It's a long way
wasn't.
out there. I don't know that many people are going to get in a car and drive that far either. So.
And, you know, and I will as a
take your gavel.
A point of, you know, we expected when we had our public hearing on the solar ordinances, that was a hotly contentious thing that we had all the same angst over mask mandates and not, and we, for the most part, we didn't have any problem because we had to limit the number of people in the room because we were like, we're going to follow the rules, but it was our facility. So I felt a lot more empowered to do that because it's our facility. The school is, if that is their written policy or their policy of the school for people to use, is that everybody in the building is, then we're going to, if we're there using it, then I have every expectation that we're going to comply with that. And we expect other people to comply with it. And if I have to, I guess we would have to, if we do it and we have people that are not going to comply, then we'll have to make a decision about, well, then I can't have a meeting if people are not going to follow the rules, then there's no sense in us doing this. And I guess we'll go home. Would be my
that might be our only recourse,
right?
Is if you're not going to comply with the school's rules, we can't be here because
we can't be here.
Liable.
I think a good thing to do is to have a conversation with the superintendent of the school and see if they plan on coming anyways. Right. And if they would also be there to let everyone know that these are the rules of the school. These are going to be the rules of the school. I heard about the school board meeting the other night. You know, there was a lot of people that showed up about the whole masking of the kids.
Was that in Glenwood?
Oh,
yeah. In Glenwood.
And it was people that showed up that weren't even from Glenwood. Oh,
It said hindsight, probably should have had it at the rodeo ground.
Into this, we asked for a place to meet.
I don't think there's a good answer in any part of this point being so last minute.
Even meetings getting difficult.
Yeah.
I know that I don't know what her title is, but she's in the office. She was going to be there when we're there.
But I don't know.
Because we have to get let in anyway, right?
Right.
I don't think she wants to take on the responsibility of being the mask police, though. And I don't know that I would put that on her.
No, I would say it's on us if we're using their facility. And I would say for me, if I have a clear set of rules, you lay it out, if people are not going to be compliant, we're not going to have the meeting because we can't. And we'll just all go home and you missed your opportunity. And I guess you got to make your point if that's what you wanted to do. But we would have loved to have had some kind of input on this actual thing that we came to talk about. Because I think at this point, we can't reschedule. I mean, we could try to reschedule, but if we're going to do that, we're going to reschedule there. Then we're going to announce that there because there's no way to head people off now at 3 o'clock in the afternoon for a meeting at 6:30.
It's going to be any better in a month, but it's already horrific in all the trajectories from hearing from your public health officer that
right.
It's getting substantially worse.
Right. It's not, that's what I mean. It's not going to, so I guess what we'll do from a certain perspective is probably better now than it will be 2 or 3 weeks from now. And so if we can get, I'm going to hold out hope that we can get some.
I think a lot of the Glenwood crowd is at the rodeo grounds won't be able to partake in the meeting, where at a later time they would, even if it was via Zoom.
Yeah. So.
Let's see what happens.
We'll see what happens. I mean, no good deed goes unpunished.
So we don't have a big plan. We're just hoping for our plan.
Well, I'm open to suggestions. Let me roll back again.
I've voiced my concerns. I don't know that there's a good answer for any of them.
Are you coming, sir?
I don't think he's made his mind up yet.
Because, they're going to want an explanation of exactly where we're at. And the only person that knows that better than anybody else is you.
Yeah, but I don't know that he can get into the details.
I mean, most of the questions I can answer.
Or we should even get into most of the details if it pertains to what could still be. We shouldn't be talking about percentages of winning, or
we don't know any of that,
or our thoughts on percentages, or any of speculation. I mean, we really shouldn't be getting into any of that.
So in essence, what we're really there is to hear from them about what they feel we should do.
When I originally thought of this, I thought it was a give them as much knowledge as I have on percentages and chances and whatever, and you know, they've already dealing with what they're dealing with from Yakima Nation. And do you want to continue this forward, or do you want to say okay and retreat? But I don't know that they can make up that decision without knowing what I know, and I can't really tell them what I know, or shouldn't, because it could adversely affect us.
All right, now, shall we go into executive and see how the thing falls apart? Yeah. It'll go great.
It'll be fine. Okay. Well, we will go into executive session in accordance with the RCW 42.30.110. Paren 1, paren I, for update discussion of pending or threatened litigation. For how long would we anticipate? Start with 15 minutes. And I would let folks know we are not planning on taking any action when we come back out of execs other than to just adjourn. If we do, we would record it so people could watch it. So then we will likely when we come out, we will just motion to adjourn to the Glenwood meeting, which is at 6:30 this tonight in Glenwood.
To discuss track D.
To discuss track D and track D only.
Yeah.
So I will.
We,
so we could just leave then.
Go ahead.
We just turn that off.
Yep.
That's the new strategy. Anytime we do executive, it is a pause, it's turn off.
Just shut off.